ahead now and present my screen. Now and present my screen. All right, there we go. You should be seeing my screen. Stanley, are we good?
Yes, I got you. I
Okay.
had myself on mute.
Yeah, we're trying to stream it live to the YouTube, so we're trying to navigate our way between the icons right here. All right. So again, let me just say welcome, welcome, and let us dive right into the study. So, like I said, tonight, Chris, you're giving me the YouTube and not my PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. So the 19th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Kof. Some persons might say Kuf, Kof, Kuf. It is represented by the pictograph that you see and the ancient picture of it. That's what you're seeing on the screen. Now, the symbol for the Kuf is the horizon. And if you think of that, then you can think of the sun, and the definitions that goes with it are like circle, something to last, to gather, and time. Now the kuf also makes the k sound, and similar to the k as in K or Q. So sometimes you will see the words written with a K, and I'm going to show you some examples. Or sometimes you will see them written with a Q. But the good thing about it, because it carries the kuf at the beginning, the definition is not going to change, even if you write it with a K or you write it with a Q. All right, so that is the horizon. Now I want you to look at all the letters in a row. When we were going to kindergarten, they taught us to write A, B, C, uppercase and lowercase. So if you were going to write all the Hebrew alphabet, it would look something like the one you're seeing on the screen now. Notice that the lamed, goes above the line, and also the kuf in its original form is below the line. Sometimes depending on the context of the word, if it has the ending sound or the beginning sound, the shape of it changes a little. And that is something that we need to look into as we study deeper and as we study words. But the lamed rises above the line and the kuf rises below the line. So we have been studying. So let's see if you can recognize these letters as we see them now. Of course, we know the first one is Aleph. We all know that. So here we go. So it's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ain, Pe. No. Zadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav. So those are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. All right. So the Kuf was depicted as a sun on the horizon. It symbolizes both time and light. The word most directly associated with this letter is kuwa, which speaks of eagerly anticipating a favorable result, of expecting the best and being confident of being gathered together by Yah. And indeed, in good time, those who place their hope in Him will find themselves before the light. And as you know, our Heavenly Father always wishes to gather us together as the hen gathers her flock. The kuf also carries a numerical value of 100. And if you remember the story of Abraham, he was 100 years old when Isaac was born. So that is something to think about and try to remember as you try to remember kuf. All right, so here are some words that actually start with this letter. The first one, and I want you to notice at the beginning of each word, you're going to see that kuf, you're going to see that symbol. So the first one is Qadim, which means east or ancient. The next one is Kodash, or some persons will say Kodesh, or if you think of the Ruach HaKodesh with the Holy Spirit, that's where that word is coming from. It means set apart. Quahal, which means assembly. Kol, which means voice. Quatsir, which means harvest. And Quara, which means call out or meet. Notice at the beginning of all these words, you're going to see the kuf giving you that qua sound at the beginning of those words. Isaiah 6, verse 1 to 3. We're going to talk about this. And I know the gentleman spoke about this story last week. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. And we learned what the train represented. It's power and conquering. That's what it represents. His throne filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they cover their faces, with 2 they cover their feet, and with 2 they did fly. Now this is the verse I want you to pay attention to. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. If you are going to read that in the Hebrew definition, that holy, holy, holy is going to be translated Kodash, Kodash, Kodash. That's what they were saying in the Hebrew context of that word. So that's something that you can remember as you try to remember the Kof. Joel 2 verse 16 says, Gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck the breast. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. I want you to notice that gathering, or that coming together, that call out, that meet, all of those definitions, we can see them being related in several verses of the Bible. Finally, Luke 13 verse 34 says, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you were not willing. I pray that as we study week after week, that we will put ourselves in the frame of mind for the Holy Spirit, or for to gather us together so that we can be one, not just as brethren, but as people who believe who we are and understand who we are, people who are seeking knowledge. Let us put ourselves in a position so that Yah can gather us together. That is our kof, and that is our letter for tonight. I hope you learned something. I hope you were blessed, and may the Yahuwah of hosts continue to watch over us. Shalom, everybody, and let's welcome the gentlemen as we get into the study.
Shalom, shalom. Let me just stop sharing. Shalom, shalom. Happy to see you all, and that was a wonderful and interesting study, the Kof. Let me see. Let me say my greetings. Caprice, hi. Stanley, hi. Anilu, Rachel Tavares. Who else? Let me look. Stefan, what's up, bro? Anaya, Alexander Cosma.
Hi.
Jennifer Oruk, Amore, Lara, and if I've missed anyone else, I don't think I did. But if I did, shalom to you all. How was your week? Annalou looks like she had a wonderful week.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. You tell us first about your week because you always ask and we never asked
Oh,
you. So
you know
you tell
what?
us first.
I had a packed week. It was a really busy week. It was a fruitful week, but a really busy one. I got myself cut today. The sun
Why?
cut a piece of my skin.
Oh, I saw that. That's like a nice little gash.
What
It's not
happened?
as bad as it looks, but it's yeah. I was using a grinder because we had just finished building a deck. And you will tend to realize that I'm a hands-on person, so everything I speak about is hands-on. And we were, I'm rounding the edges of just aesthetics, and the grinder didn't have the shield on. So because of the power of the motor, when I turned it, it just flipped around and just
Ah, got you.
took out a piece of it. So I had to just wrap it and continue working.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
Though?
I'm okay. Yeah. My boss used to say, "Look on that on Sunday." So when you get hurt on the job, he said, take care
Yeah,
of that on Sunday.
right. Take that up later.
But I'm okay. My week has been good. Because of the busy week, I haven't had a chance to fully prepare the lesson that I had intended to start the series, Dispensation of Grace. But however, I still have a presentation, but I would prefer for us to discuss field questions, whether there were anything that was not clear, whether there was any um, concept in anyone's mind that they would like to share with us. And after that, then I'll see to doing the presentation. But I will gladly shelf that presentation in deference to your views. So that was my week in a nutshell.
Okay, it's so nice to hear.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. Um, yes, my week was I don't know. I guess it was like a week full of confusion to me. Because I don't know, I've been like in a different space in regards to like and I don't know, I feel like this week I just felt like a little bit like disconnected to people and to the things I do and to the things like I approach. So I've been missing to see in everything that I do and everything that I approach. So yeah, like I guess I'll be working on that the next few weeks and yeah.
Be patient with yourself. Anyone else?
I can go.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
it's Jen.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, thank you.
I don't believe I read your name just now. Did I miss you?
You did, but I had it as my whole name because I forget that it's
Jennifer. Oh, yes.
O'Rourke. Yeah. I had a pretty good week, but I feel that last comment because I felt disconnected myself. Like I feel like I took for granted the relationship I've been building with Ya, and I kind of like went away from routine, and I realized for myself that I have to build that in kind of a daily practice, or it's too easy to get caught up in my work and just the things that keep me busy. So I'm kind of trying to figure out that balance of like, how do I be disciplined in my relationship as well? But besides that, it was good.
Praise Yah. And we all have that when honestly, sometimes I'm riding in the car and my mind says, put on the Bible and play it, and I just said, I don't want to hear anything at all. I just want to be quiet. So we all do have that moment, and sometimes I push through it and just, you know what, turn it on. And then after a while, sometimes I'll just pass my turn listening and processing what I'm listening. So I understand we all do. And as I was going to the bathroom this evening, I was struggling last week, and this week I felt better. And I said, wow, I felt better. And then I said, but think of it. You approach based on how you feel. Speaking of myself now. And I said, in your best feeling, are you even worthy? Then I said, whoa, it's not about how I feel. It's about what he is doing for me. And then I check to myself and say, you know what? Whether you're having a struggling week or you have a victorious week, we are to come. We are to push through it. And if we didn't, he understands and he's waiting for us the next week. Not to slap us, but to hug us and to gather us, as the Kof says.
I feel that. I feel that. Thank you.
So, anyone else?
How you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, bro?
Hey, Christopher.
How you guys doing? I'm doing good. I just actually got back from the store. Try to get everything done and before Shabbat. So, but my week has been going pretty good. This week has actually been pretty good. I can't actually complain. I decided to do just 2 days right now of fasting, at least for like the morning. I just get my head cleared and just refocused, and that actually has helped. A lot of things that I used to do and let frustrate me now doesn't frustrate me as much. And I just kind of take the day as it is. If anything happens, okay, what's the reason for it? All right, push on and go by my day. Don't let it bother me the whole day. So this week has been pretty good. I've been asking y'all for clarity on a couple decisions and opportunities that have presented themselves this week. So as those come to a conclusion, this is what I've been doing, and it's actually been helping me a lot.
Toda, yeah.
Praise y'all for that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, to be able to get to a place where things are starting to bother you less and being at peace.
Yeah.
That's always a blessing to get centered.
That's a blessing.
That's it. That's the blessing, to be able to, like, that's not bothering me anymore. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to get, and sometimes I still do, but like other things where I would get like very frustrated with little stuff. I'm like, now it's like, it really wasn't, it's not a big deal. Just keep it moving.
Yeah, I was there once. When I was younger, nothing bothered me. I would smile. As you get more responsibilities that you cannot ignore, that tend to kind of takes you to another place that you have to relearn how to get back to that place. But I feel you.
Yeah, I feel that too. I was more so on the opposite. I didn't have much stuff bother me. I'm always, balanced. And so I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm having to actually, especially now being married, day by day, I'm having to realize I have to show more of my emotion to my family, instead of just letting it sit, because it doesn't do anybody any good where if I'm going through something or if I'm feeling a certain way, I don't express it. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
Right.
I know that feeling. I
I'm on the other end.
internalize everything.
Yeah, I'm internalized, and I'm always balanced. Like I always tell friends, there's only a few things that's gonna trigger me. Don't mess with my money, don't mess with my wife, my family, and we good.
Yeah,
Outside of that, you're not gonna get me out of a zone. It's like my emotional window is very small. I'm not gonna get angry. I'm not gonna get high. I'm not gonna be too low. But with my wife, especially being married, my wife, she desires my emotional response. And so when I don't give that to her, she's like, Stanley, something like to talk. And I'm like, nothing's wrong. But yeah, I'm on the other end. So yeah, emotions play both ways, because you can get frustrated or not show any emotion, and both aren't healthy.
yeah. I know. I'm working through that myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
I grew up where I had to internalize stuff and I had to be strong.
I'm the only child. It's only me. It was
Yeah.
only me. I didn't have brothers or sisters. It was just me. So I didn't have that. Can somebody? No, it's like my whole mantra is always go get it done. Just do it. Like
Yeah.
I don't have time to cry. I don't have time to be angry. I just got to go get it done. And and then also, and having access to the most, growing up, not having a lot of resources. It's one of those things where I'm working at 13 of almost like at a barbershop just to make money, because I'm tired of getting told no by my parents. They don't have no money. And so now I'm working and trying to stay out the streets because my dad instilled in like the streets don't deserve you. That was one thing. I was blessed for having an active father that he made sure to make sure me and those I was connected to understood that the streets don't deserve you. Don't do that. And so, you gotta just, if you got a sweep hair at a barbershop, make your money. And I did. I made my little money. But like I said, I didn't have time to be angry. I just had go get it done. And so after now almost 40 years, I still am conditioned that way. And my wife is like, Stanley, you got to stop. Like you can't do that. And just past, this past year when we moved, my blood pressure got up to over 200.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Most High preserved me. And that was a blessing. I went to go get a tooth pulled in the middle of trying to sell a house, trying to buy a house, and had a tooth root canal. I'm in there and the dentist, and she takes my blood. She's like, Stanley, you need to go to the emergency room right now and make sure you're good. I was like, what's wrong? Like, your blood pressure is like 196. And by the time I got to the emergency room, it was like 201. And he's like, you don't feel it? Like, no, I have no headaches. I have no anything. So the Most High, the Holy Spirit was keeping me because I didn't feel anything, but I was just like, yeah, you was on stroke level.
Yeah.
So it's just, I say all that to say, Chris, like the other end of that spectrum is
because you internalize.
I'm internalizing everything.
You that way.
Right. And so it's just finding that balance, is not to say that you're wrong to not, and that's one thing too, I always like to say, like, you're not wrong to have a reaction or be frustrated. You have that right. The Most High allows us that space.
Yes.
It's just like you said, the thing is pushing through it and not getting to a place of wrath. That's the difference between anger, and wrath. Not getting to a place where you feel like you got to hurt somebody or hurt yourself or do something irrational where you're going to regret it. And so, like I said, I'm on the opposite end of you, brother. I'm still learning day by day to stop internalizing everything.
I'm happy for him, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That's getting to that balance.
Yeah, I want to get back there, but now with a different perspective.
Yes.
He's getting there with the perspective of fasting and prayer.
Yes.
We got there with this perspective of, you know what, I have to be strong to do this.
Right.
We basically
I'm going to die if I don't fix this. Not for like, I want to get closer to the, in tune with the most. Yeah. And I agree with you. Doing it for the righteous reasons.
Yeah. Anyone else? I think no one else?
I just know for me, outside of what I've been speaking already, my week has been solid. It's been pretty good. I can't complain. This is always a blessing to be able to, have employment in this time. I'm working from home still. It's a little rough at times because of the kids, but on the flip side, I am with my kids. So, it's a pro and con. It's like he wants to play, she wants to do stuff.
They don't realize you're at work.
He don't care. He's all in it. He's all in the video still, like P. Diddy. He's in the video chats doing all this. So I'm like, God, you gotta. But other than that, it's just thankful. Just continue thankful to be here above ground and to be able to wake up every day, wake up this morning and just being thankful. So that in itself is worthy to be praised and given thanks for.
Anyone else?
For me, not just this week, but for quite a few months, I've kind of felt distant from God. I find it hard to connect with him. And I think it's just because of experiences I've had with the church. And it's kind of pushed me away from the it's kind of pushed me away from God as well, I think. And that's something I need to definitely work on. But I find that these Bible studies, I find them kind of really helpful because I think it's the only thing I really do to kind of expresses my faith. And of course, I know that faith isn't all about works, but I hardly pray. I don't really read my Bible properly. And I just, I can't say I have the best feelings towards the Christian community. I'm quite weary of them. But yeah, this is helping, and I'm definitely going to try and draw closer to God.
I'm glad you opened up to us, and I thought you said earlier that a chat kind of pushed you away from, yeah, I'm not sure if that's what you said.
It says church. She said, I think she's church.
Okay. What we have to remember though, and it comes with, there's a dynamic with church. Individually, the persons are nice, but collectively, there's an institutionalized culture that tend to sometimes be abrasive. It's not that the person wants to be abrasive to you sometimes, because there are some persons who are naturally
Intentionally.
abrasive.
Yes, their intent is to be that way.
And sometimes I'm intentionally abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna give you an example. If I realize that there's an undertone of doing X, and I say, X is not right, and you're pushing it, I'm gonna tell you bluntly, and I come from a family that they're really very blunt in telling you what's on their mind. I have a niece, 1 second before it's on her mind, you're hearing it. So that's how she is. All my family is like that. And so I prayed over the years for tact.
Tact. Yep. Same. Yep.
How
That
to
is
kind of
a
tone
skill
that.
of prayer. A tact.
Yeah, there comes a time when when it comes out without me realizing, and there comes a time when I deliberately do it to kind of do that. But saying that to say this, that some persons, as Stanley says, are intentionally abrasive, and some persons see young people as not being eligible or worthy, or it's like it's an age territory thing where if you're not 45, you cannot be holy. And I remember when I became the personal ministries leader in a particular church, and I was the youngest personal ministries leader for the church at that time. I was like just over my 20s, just starting in my 20s. And I selected another friend of mine to be my assistant. I don't remember how that went, but I asked him to do something, and an older gentleman was saying he's too young to offer the prayer on behalf of the church. This was like divine hour, central hour now. And I asked a young person to do the prayer, and I overheard him saying he's too young, and I'm saying to myself, are you serious? So, and I don't believe that he was malicious when he said that. It's just his mindset. We have to understand that persons before my generation are much closer, because a lot of us can remember our great grandparent can tell you of the plantation. So it may seem far away, but they're coming with that very mindset in a very distinct way. So they're going to relate to you that way. The next issue, again, is a part of the institution, is that it is so drawn to the doctrines of that institution. And sometimes, and that's not just church, that is even Israel. Nothing else matters. And so the intimate feelings does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then that comes across because young persons are not as influenced by
words. You got to show me.
Right.
We're in the age of show me now.
Right.
I got to see. If I can't see it, it don't happen, or it didn't happen.
Right. And young persons tend to not see Yahuwah through the eyes of older folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting there, so I have to know which.
Yeah, we're in the middle. That's what they say.
So
We're
we're
in the
the
middle. The late 70s, it's like a 10 to 12 year gap. The late 70s to late 80s is in that gap where we know what digital is and we know what analog is.
right.
And so we have an interesting concept of how to bridge the gap between older generations and younger generations.
Right. So what you find happening is that how we relate, and I'm saying this because of experience, and I hear what you said, Amore, and I know when I would have gone through that in the church.
Yep. I was 18. I know the year. I was the
Yeah.
18, the late teens.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's the mid late teens. You get the same feeling.
Right. And you could do nothing right. We're on the youth choir,
Yep. Don't
and
matter.
every time you leave choir practice, you're gonna listen to hear something coming back to say that the youth did or did not
Didn't
do,
do.
whether you were too loud or whatever.
Adventurers, it wasn't
Yeah.
right. Or if you wasn't adventurers, it means you in the world doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And
So
it was literally nothing.
yeah, it's like you could do nothing right.
Nothing right.
Yeah, but I'm a fighter. I grew up a fighter, and this week I was reflecting, or as my friend David Mohammed would say, genuflecting, on how Yah called me. And I'm saying this to say that you, wherever you are, always be anchored to how He called you.
Yep.
Nothing else around you matter. So I was reflecting on when I came to church, Yahuwah didn't call me to a church. The first vision He gave me, and I don't say this publicly too often. We only have 16 persons, so it's not really public. Oh, but it's YouTube. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So He gave me a vision and showed me a woman, an old woman in what I describe as the ark, showed me Emmanuel. It was a black youth in a blue mitre, turban with a blue, what you call it, a robe, shawl, mantle. And I didn't even know what blue meant. It was holiness to Yahuwah. I had no idea what that blue meant, but the picture stuck in my mind for like 2 weeks. And when I used to draw, I drew it 2 weeks after on a large paper. It was a large paper. I don't remember the size now. But after that, the second vision was of a fire burning in the sky, burning out of control. And I'm just going to give you the compressed version of it. And as I ran through the community, at this time I wasn't a Christian. I can tell you that. I had a deep feeling for my people. I had a deep feeling for people in general, love for people, and a deep feeling for my race. But I was not a Christian. Grew up in a Christian home, of course, multiple denominations in the one home. Always dreaded the prayer altar line because of how the guy had to shake the people's head when he's praying for them. I would skip and don't go to the line because of that. It was just terrifying to me as a youngster. I was really young. But when Yahuwah gave me that, I was running through the community, pointing to this fire. It's like a wildfire just burning. The Shamayim was on fire. But no one was seeing it. And then there was a lamb, a slain lamb. I don't know anything about all this at that time. This time I lived what you'd call the disco, the club dance hall, reggae dance hall. I lived there. Live, sleep, eat, breathe. I was actually writing for a friend of mine who is still in the music industry, because I used to write songs and stuff, and DJ and sing and all kind of stuff. And so I'm showing persons this sign in the sky and no one is seeing it. And I went to my house, we would call it my yard in Jamaica. And my mom was at the gate and she saw what I was saying, but it's like she was consoling me on the persons because I was complaining that persons are not seen. It's like she was consoling me. So I left the yard and I went back to on the opposite direction of the road now to somewhere I sat through many things that I shouldn't have sat through. It's where I normally hang out in the boys' clique or gang or whatever you call it at that time. So we've seen many things there, many things I wouldn't even mention here. And while I sat there, I looked up and then there was a globe in the sky. And there was a Roman hand. I didn't know it was a Roman hand at that time, but it had on a huge bracelet on the hand and was holding the globe. After that, I learned it was a Roman bracelet based on the look of it. I didn't know what that was at the time. And many things that was there, but I noticed that this hand held the world, the globe. I walked from there over to the church. The church was next door to my house, the Adventist church. Basically grew up beside it. Didn't really like them either. Came to love them and met some really wonderful friends there after I got to like them. But when I went into the churchyard, there were some persons sitting. It's like a drive up. It's like maybe 20 feet wide, the gate to enter. And there was a drive up to get into the church premises. And sitting on that incline was a group of persons who I saw to be true worshippers of Yah, sitting in tattered garment on the ground. No one paying them any attention. When I walked around to the church side, because I was familiar with the church, on the choir loft, there were cheerleaders on the Shabbat conducting their thing. In a sense, the church then was filled with people who were not even really worshiping Yahuwah. And the true worshippers were outside, cast away. For over 20 years, I prayed for what that meant. And when I started, it was lonely the way Yahuwah was leading me all those years, because the things I said, when I said stuff, people look at me crazy. Like I'm mad. I'm radical, I'm rebellious. Well, I'm always rebellious, but that's natural for me. So, and I'm always radical. But they looked at me crazy. It was lonely then, but I must tell you this. Since I started doing this, I have friends who I'm friends with. And most of my friends are from the church. Most. Well, most of the ones I relate to closely, because most of my friends before church are mostly dead, to give you an understanding of where that is coming from and why I'm here now. And when I started this exploring Torah, which I didn't even intend to start.
Correct.
Right, you understand,
Yeah,
Stanley?
you know, I know. Right.
Right. So what I realize is that persons who I was close friends with are suddenly here. I'm not pushing them away, but that's the situation. I remember preaching a sermon, which is, incidentally, I didn't plan it, a part of the message I'm going to present if we get to the presentation tonight. And after that, the clergy asked me for the notes of my sermon. And I remember after standing up for the Bible in another situation, and they said to me, "We need you to be on one accord with us." And I said to them, "Show me what you're saying in the Bible and I'll stand beside you." And they didn't. They couldn't, I know they couldn't, but they didn't, they refused to even try. And I said to them, I don't group think. Have never done it, will never do it. If we come together, it's because we believe the same things individually, which is what I like. I don't want persons to agree with me because. But that caused another separation where I was accused of dividing the people. I wasn't distancing from anyone. As far as I knew, everyone, I was on good terms with everyone. Yet I was accused of dividing the people. Saying that to say that I've been in a lonely place in the last few months. Persons are around me, and I guess exploring Torah, you guys, is like the bedrock for me now. Because everything we knew before is now dissolving right before our eyes. And it's not easy because these are friends who you hold dear. So I'm not going to say let them go if they want to go because your friends are your friends. Right? So it's not easy, but it's a lonely walk. A friend of mine called me, who I worked with, Kenyatta Virtue, and she has been studying and on her own is walking to the Hebrew faith walk. No one telling her what to do. She's just studying the Bible, and that's where it's leading her, which is the power of Yah. He's doing this now. He's doing this now because he's about to do a greater thing. But welcome, Miles. But when you're awake, you can answer that, right? So she calls and she said, "Chris, have you ever felt lonely in this walk?" And I said, it's a feeling I felt all this time.
Right. It's regularly. That's a regular feeling.
It's, and she speaks of how it becomes, and she's just starting, just starting, and she's feeling that already because one of the reasons for that is that hold on for a minute, is that things are becoming clear now, black and white, not race black and white, but paper and ink black and white, and the lines are being drawn clearly now, and those who are gonna be on Yah's side is making that decision now. And as you do that, you're going to be lonely. It is not a new thing. All the prophets were. As a matter of fact, they've beaten Paul so much. It's no wonder Yahweh is gonna have to give us new bodies. Every time he turns around, he's being beaten. And all the disciples, they've beaten Jeremiah so much. Our people now, our people, Israel. It's not like the Romans are beating us. Our people beat the prophets. Our people. And simply because they dare to speak the truth. As you walk in Torah, and I'm saying that to say that, Amore, you're going to start to feel this as you look at truth. And if you dare to ask questions, you may get a don't think about it or don't pay that's not relevant now. And if you persist, then you're going to get a kind of sideline thing where you hold up your hand in study and no one takes your hand. You want to say something and no one. This is treatment where I'm from, the culture, the church where I'm from, where you start to know that no one takes your questions in lesson study, or you try to make a point and you're shunned or you're sidestepped. And if you persist, then you're silenced and possibly put out or labeled, given a name, because that's another thing. You're given a label to basically tell people that this is who he is or she is, as long as you decide to read what you see in the scripture. Not talking about spurious really doctrines now. What is in the scripture. And so it will do that. It tend to do that. And it will make you feel like giving up because your friends are your friends. There were times when I have discussion with friends, and when I finish the discussion, I'm second guessing myself, which makes me stronger because then I go back now to look at the entire discussion, because for the entire night that discussion will be playing through in my head, word for word. And I'm now going back to the scriptures to see if what I believe is what is really in the scripture, because I always double check myself based on the scripture, and to see if what they were saying, if there were truth to it, because in my mind, I don't know that I have any crazy friends. So these are rational people. So I'm thinking in my mind they must have rational reasons for saying what they're saying. So I'm going to go check it. That's how I think. I'm not going to say I'm not going to talk to you because you're saying this. I'm going to talk to you. And I'm going to look to see what you're saying. But nonetheless, it still becomes a lonely walk. So I was reflecting, as you say, and Amore, and you're gonna feel this way sometimes. You're gonna feel like not engage with Yahuwah because it brings so much conflict at times. And that conflict is simply because we are living in a world. It's like trying to, you have a car with 3 good wheels and you put a square wheel on the next side. It's going against the grain, and it's not going to be comfortable. But as we studied 2 weeks ago, when you're going to study, pray first and ask
Always.
Yahuwah to lead you, and
Always pray.
and drop everything that you have believed before, whether it's your tradition of parents, whether it's your church belief, whether it's your own held personal belief, and say, Yahuwah, teach me. And whatever is good from those prior beliefs, He will reinstate. Whatever is not necessary, He may not show you immediately, but He's going to show you step by step. I've prayed for stuff that didn't come until 10 years, and then you have stuff I've prayed for that came in a day. So none of us know His timing, but if we stick with Him and follow Him through that, and when we get to this position where people may make us feel like we want to pull away from Him, it is just, He's just, Ruach HaKodesh is just saying to us, okay, like Isaiah in the temple, and Uzziah, I think it was his uncle or cousin, when they had great faith in Uzziah, that they saw the deliverance of Israel through Uzziah, and when he died, they were just saying, what's going to happen now? And Yahuwah said, oh, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. I'm going to happen. So Yahuwah sometimes shows us that through the reaction of persons, so that we become more dependent on Him and less dependent on people's affirmation for what we believe. Because the time is coming, it's upon us right now, when we're going to need to be able to bear hunger, ridicule, loneliness, all that, in order to walk the road that He's calling us to walk. And I'm not just saying that, it's in the Bible. So He calls us to walk this walk, and He says that we should diligently seek Him. He calls us to this walk for that specific purpose, and we go through the things we go through now for that specific purpose. Going back to the vision, Yahuwah was preparing me for this walk to minister to Hebrews and those who would join themselves to Hebrews as Yahuwah's people, as one people, not 2 different sets of people, but one people. I'm emphasizing that because those who come a part of Israel is one with Israel. And as that happened, though living in Jamaica, Yahuwah put me through some experience that allowed me to see firsthand what some of the things I'm talking about is. I've seen prejudice, I've seen all that. And I've seen racism even since I came here to the US. And I'm a different person. I tell you, I'm rebellious. I, I, I used to say that if I was a slave, I would die real quick because I'm going to fight. but, but I'm that type of rebellious person. But beyond that, what happens, Yahuwah has given me a strength that the race thing that really doesn't bother me beyond what I know it to be. For instance, you call me a nigga, so, so, yeah, so I'm saying, if you declare that you hate me, so, because guess what? You don't validate me. You do not affirm me.
Right.
So I'm not running around worried about who likes or hate me in terms of race. I'm honestly not worried about that. I'm more worried about how our people treat us, whether we love us. I'm more worried about that. I look in the school system, my wife is a teacher. I look in the school system, I look around me and I see our young people and I see where we're heading with no help from anyone. And I realize that even if everyone else loved us, we would still be heading for destruction because we don't love ourselves. And that's a reality that we need to come to grips with before we can start to ask persons to love us. I'm saying this because it's been on my heart for the week and for what Yahuwah has called me to do. Have I always walked in that calling? No, I've done some things worse than before I was called during the walk. I've done terrible things. The amazing thing is that there were points when I said, okay, it's done. It makes no sense I even look to Yah because it just could not be that he's still calling my name. It's just not possible. Just not possible. Yet he was calling my name still. And that is why when I said last week or the week before that, if I can be saved, anyone looking at this can be saved. Absolutely anyone. Anyone trying to walk can be saved. If I can be saved. And the point I'm making, I know my calling. It was crystal clear tones. When Yahuwah called me, I went to church with my grandmother, who is, I think it's a mix between Baptist, and my elder sister was Anglican, and my mother was kind of Church of God. All kind of stuff happening. So, and I went to church with her Mother's Day, May 10, 1994. Well, Mother's Day, Sunday, 1994. And I don't even remember what the preacher was preaching. However, I started reading more because Yahuwah had spoken to me already. And I started reading. I would spend hours reading from morning until there was no light. I would go to the hills. I don't know if I've said this before. And I would read the Bible constantly. And I went to the Adventist church because of the Sabbath. I didn't learn Sabbath from a preacher, no. They were having an evangelistic campaign, and I just turned up one Sunday and said, I want to be baptized. No Bible work and nothing. And so Yahuwah brought me to learning about him independently of everyone else. And then, so I have this independent spirit when I approach Yah. I'm not cumbered by what the church believes. I'm not cumbered by what my friends. I'm concerned because my friends are my friends, and I feel deeply about my friends. But I'm not shackled by what the society around me thinks, honestly. And when I think back, I realize that Yah had wanted to lead me this way. When I was a youngster, when my friends would be wearing Nike. Of course, Nike, you had to be saving to buy a Nike. So, and I didn't see it necessary, so I didn't. I would buy a Reebok, but not a Nike. And I would just put on a push toe slippers. I don't know if you use the same term. That thong slippers with the one string that comes through your flip flop.
Flop.
And I'm going on the bus in my flip flop Marina and my denim. And I remember standing at the bus stop once, and I was really blunt. And they were looking at me, and as if to say, seriously? And I just looked at the young lady in her face and said, so you don't have anywhere else to look? Of course. No, I would not say that. But then I was young and stupid, and I just said what came to mind. But I just didn't care about what the world thought of me. Fast forward maybe 20 years, well, more than 25 years. I realized that that same feeling of not bending to popular demand and popular opinion comes in to a point now where I'm thinking, Yah gave me that spirit. I just didn't know what to do with it then. But now I'm seeing where that now is a great tool in where we are today in the whole mass of misinformation, and the wrong information is actually held as the right information now. And then you have to constantly check yourself because you are on the road least traveled. And then you remember the Bible says that broad is the way that leads to destruction, and narrow is the way that leads to eternal life. It tells you that the popular belief the majority will never be right. As far as spiritual things are concerned, and the majority are in context being the world. I'm not saying if you have your friends and they say stop doing that, you're gonna be right and you're wrong. You have to back that up with Torah, right? So understand the context here. But I'm saying the majority, as in the world view, will never be right. It has never been, and it will never be. Put it another way, Yahuwah's viewpoint will always be the minority. Always. There's never a time when the Bible tells you that the majority sought Yah. The majority is always going the wrong direction. Always. Always, always, always. And there's always this few prophets or few messengers that comes with a message and then they are killed. Because guess what? The majority does not believe that. And the majority is not in their mind evil. They are killing you thinking they're actually doing God a favor. And Yahushua said it, that the time will come that they will kill you thinking they're doing Yahuwah a favor.
It's already happened. This goes back to history, Inquisition and the Crusades.
Right. Some of them know what they're doing, but the majority of the people who join the bandwagon to just follow what is being said in the news or in the popular circles, they're just following because it's popular.
Yeah.
But guess what? They are the ones who are going to lay hands on you physically.
Christians killing Christians, or Christians killing believers.
Right. They're going to be the ones to lay hands on, because the Bible says that they will deliver you up to be afflicted. Understand this. If someone is going to deliver you to somewhere or to someone, they had to have access to you and to the enemy at the same time.
At the same time. Right.
Judas? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they can't deliver you. It means that those who are going to deliver you will be those among you. I'm not saying you're supposed to be suspicious of everyone around you. Christ knew exactly that was going to happen. Those among him was going to deliver him, just as he said it's going to happen to us. And as we discussed before, Everything that happened to Christ in his entire life was designed to foreshadow that which would happen to us in our lives. And so when he said they will deliver you up to be afflicted, just as those among his inner circle would deliver him up to be afflicted, it's a reality that we, and I guess Amore started started me on this conversation. It's a reality that we have to accept, that persons are going to shun you because of once you start to believe the truth of the Bible. The Bible says that truth and error does not mix. And the world does not and will not love the things of Yah. It says it clearly. So obviously, the popular view, he said it, the world will not love the things of Yah. And they will not love you when you embrace these things. And we say it a lot, but guess what? The time is coming, and it is here for some of us. It's like we're feeling the outer bands of the hurricane wind, the gust. You know when the hurricane is coming, I don't know if you're from the Caribbean, where you get the Cat 5s and stuff, and you get the gust, and you feel a puff of wind, and then it's calm, and you feel, and you see stuff just intermittently happening. That's where we are now. We're feeling the gust of the wind of this traumatic time that is coming upon us. And when we feel people push us away from Yah, it's that preparation for us to now see where that trigger point that they could have actually accessed, and say, oh, you know what, that was a weak point. Let me go to Yah and strengthen that. It is a time when the persons just last week or this week in Jamaica, what they did was that the government decided that the persons in the police force, and I think for the military, but it was the police who made the declaration, the police union. Persons in the police force who did not take the vaccine could not be promoted. And you ask yourself, what does vaccine have to do with promotion?
And performance.
Or performance? But it tells you that it's greater than what we're seeing. It tells you that what's happening in the world is greater than what we're seeing. So these little countries are not going to be as discreet with what they do. So you start to look at smaller countries that you're going to start to see. And there are some things that is afoot and that the Vatican is doing that we won't discuss tonight, but the outer bands are blowing. We're feeling it. And Yahweh is saying that from these personal experiences of isolation of persons, these are opportunities for us to build those breaches, those spots that they could have entered, those breach in the fence that they could have walked through to get to you. Yahweh is saying, I allowed them to walk through that so you can actually fix it. Or come to me so I can fix it. So that you will have a full armor. I don't know about...
And age has no play in this, whether you are a teenager or adult. Like, Amore, you're a teen, so, it happened, and the same thing with Chris explained, same thing with me, is you have that teen age where you feel like what I'm reading and what's being taught to me don't add up. And then you feel disconnected because like you're feeling the pressures of an institution saying, just have faith and just have faith. But you're like, yeah, I have faith. But again, what you're teaching me is not matching what I'm reading. And so it's that confliction, and it's like Chris said, and it happened to me. It happened to me as a teen too. I was about 16 and having that. And it also, to touch on your point, Chris, it's almost like you kind of have in this. I'm sure every person on this call has some kind of inner rebellious energy, because it's almost like you need it to be able to say, you know, I'm tired of being told something that don't make sense. Let me go find something else. And that's what happened to me. Is like, you know, even as an Adventist, growing up as an Adventist in the church and seeing, like, my parents never, and I'm so blessed that my parents never stifled it. They never said, you know, Stanley, if you have questions, seek it. And if we can't give it to you, seek it. Keep praying and you're going to find it. They never stifled my questioning, because, you know, you get that old mentality where if you question, like, don't question God, you just have faith. No, he says test me. Doesn't in his word say test him? Yes. And prove him? And so it's not a challenging, say, I'm like the Canaanites where I'm just openly pushing away from. No, it's like, Father, I'm challenging you to show me who you are. Not that I don't trust you, but I want to see for you who you are for myself, because what I'm reading is coming from a genuine place. What I'm reading, what I'm being taught and what I'm reading don't match. So Father, I need you to reveal yourself to me. And at 16, it started my path, and all the way until my early 20s. And then in my mid to late 20s, when I started getting on this, like, you know what, you get deeper and deeper into, like you said, that natural spirit moving, saying there's more, and you get hungry and you get thirsty, and there's like a natural desire. You're like, you find like a little breadcrumb and you get excited. Now it's like, oh, I got to find the next part. So my thing that I would say to Amore is that whether you read it in the scripture or even hearing our testimonies, this is all a part of that journey, to where you're going to feel disconnected from an institution. You're going to feel disconnected from people. However, it's not to say that it's anybody's particular fault or even to place blame. It's just up to you to say, you know, I'm going to use this, like Chris said, I'm going to use this opportunity to fix the broken parts of my fence. So instead of looking at them saying, like, you broke my fence, or you maybe didn't close the loops or didn't give me the proper equipment to fix my fence, you're going to say, Father, I'm going to come to you because you're the best handyman that any of us can know. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to help fix the fence, so that way these people or this institution or anybody else can't breach it again, or they're going to have a harder time breaching it. And so just, again, we always want to emphasize, don't beat yourself up for the feelings you have, because the Father gives us space to have these feelings. It's just in that process, like, you know, when you study, you have to tap into the Ruach, the spirit that wrote the book. Just like when you go to school, you know, you get into the mind of the people who came up with these theorems and solutions and stuff. So it's the same way that you got to get into the spirit and tap into the spirit of the being that helped or narrate what happened in this book. And then, you know, just keep that hunger. That's the main thing. Just keep that desire to stay on the path, because you're going to get knocked off. You just got to be willing to say, I'm gonna stand back up and get back on it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both. You've literally provided me with so much clarity on kind of everything that's kind of been filling my mind lately. Even though kind of I only told you a very short summary, I feel like there are things that I've been thinking about that you've both kind of addressed, and just things that I feel like I have a clearer vision now of what I need to do, which is to start looking at the text properly instead of passively.
Be active. That's what faith is, right? The word, the Hebrew word emunah, means active support. So yeah, that's the works. It's not saying that, you know, putting on the appearance of righteousness by saying, oh, I shout and do backflips on a drop of a dime. No, the active support is seeking, reading, and applying it, and then and then saying, I trust this process. Wait, they say to trust the process. It's one of the best. The Most High saying that, to trust the process. You're to be honest, you're to be so young. I kind of wish I was at your place where you were in your age, because when I wasn't thinking like how you're thinking. You're in this group seeking Yah with the most sincere attitude. And that is beautiful. Like, I wasn't at your age. I mean, I was kind of like, whatever. But you actually have a sincere desire, and that is amazing. And your mom should be proud of that too. And as well, that you have this strong desire to just get better at knowing who the Most High is. So you are most certainly not in a place of what would I say of uh where I know where I was. I'll say that. So most certainly, Amore, you stay on the path. It's not even about this group. It's take us out. It's about you and your connection to the Most High. However that looks, whatever that looks like. If this group is a part of that, amen. But it's 100% about you and the Most High. And even in His name, Yod He Yod He means behold the hand. He is the one that's in control. Behold the hand. His very name that he said, Yod He Wahe. Behold the hand. Behold the nail. Behold the one that's in control. Behold the one that was nailed on the cross. That's literally what that name means. He said, just keep connected to the one in control and the one who died for us, and you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Christopher had raised his hands.
Oh yeah. I was kind of just gonna, I guess, add a little bit on that as far as the same journey that she was on. I'm still certain one in that journey. Yah started revealing things to me back in I want to say October of last year. With all the killings and things of that sort going on, I asked one specific question as to why our people have gone through the stuff that they've gone through. And through another guy was actually a Christian rapper who I had commented on one of his posts about it because he had shared something, and not even shortly after that he emailed me and gave me his number, and he just sent me a link to something that a site that actually had a lot of that stuff described in there with a lot of the information along with scripture, and it just started opening my eyes up a lot as far as what's going on, why the things have been going the way they have been going. And upon that, those little breadcrumbs, like you guys said before, sparked my interest, and it kind of made me smile a little bit because it's like, okay, now I'm getting somewhere. Now I'm kind of starting to see,
Get some
okay,
real
this is
food.
why. Yeah, it's like, so this is why this is this way. This is why this is that way. And I remember when I first started reading in Genesis in October, and I came across the passage where it's I don't know a lot of things verbatim, but it was God was pretty much telling Abraham that his people would be inflicted for like 400 years. And
Genesis.
literally reading that one little passage, I was like, wait a minute. Because I remember around that last year, everybody kept saying something about 400 years, 400 years. I'm
29.
like,
Yeah.
2019,
yeah,
September to the date, to the exact date, September
yeah. And
2019.
I was like, and then when I read that scripture, I was like, wait a minute. And so I just kept reading and stuff started sparking me. And then I played for a church, and I know I don't play with them no more. It was kind of a,
You're a musician?
yes, I play keyboard. I also do like music production and stuff. But at the time, I was like the second keyboardist there, so I wasn't the main guy. But there were just things that, as I was reading, weren't lining up a little bit. And not saying that what the pastor was preaching wasn't according to God's word. Of course, every pastor is not perfect. Every pastor is going to say have their own, opinion on things. But there were things that I was questioning, and then it eventually came up where I had to, sit and talk with them and things. And then it was a good conversation and stuff. But then I just end up having to make a conscious decision to step back a little bit and saying, okay, I have to take this and kind of into my own hands and say, this is not what I want to be a part of right now. And so even now, because I still, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the hooping and hollering and the church culture because I grew up in it for so long. But at the same time, with me, being a musician, it's like, okay, do I want to go back into that, knowing the things I know now, and saying I accept these things, knowing I won't, knowing that certain, churches celebrate Easter, certain churches celebrate Christmas. I don't no longer do those things. So would it be right for me to even, incorporate, myself into that? But even, like I said, in short, I went through the same thing, still going through it. And it is a tough road because you want to still be a part of those type of organizations, but at the same time, it has to align, or they have to align sort of with what, you're reading in the word.
How old are you, Christopher?
I'm 26. I'll be
26.
27 in a couple months.
Oh, that's when the breadcrumbs really start pouring on for me.
Oh.
When I hit 26, oh, that's when it got real.
Yeah,
Like when I
and
say
so
real, I've said it on here earlier. At the age of 26, that's when I was really playing. I was having a blast in my sin, or so I thought. I'm out there getting it in my sin. And at about 26, 27, the most I was like, you better stop playing with me before I bring the pain. You got to relax, because you know better. You know better.
Yeah.
And how Chris mentioned how the way that he calls you, make sure you remember it, because he's going to use that method to get you back when you fall off. And literally, he said, the way that you have been called, your mama, he literally said, your mother prayed for you. You were born on the Mashabbat. You could have died in your mother's womb, and I saved you before you even born. My milk cord was wrapped around my neck. I was born on the Sabbath, and my mom only had one kidney. She prayed for a son, and she had me right after Mother's Day. I was born on May 14th, right after Mother's Day, on the Sabbath, around noon, I do believe, too. And she said, you are mine multiple times over. Stop playing with me. And I'm gonna have to bring this pain to you. And I got in line. That's when my whole life, and that's when the breadcrumb, about 26, I was out there playing. About 28, breadcrumbs was all over. I was like, I'm eating full meals now. And it was it was no longer hamburgers and fries. It was filet mignon. But it was some amazing stuff that I started picking up piece by piece. But yeah, I remember my 26. Yeah, it was definitely a real time. And then in the age of where you are afflicted to what the institution brings. And again, this is not, again, what we always emphasize, this is not a railing on the institution, because the fellowship is a wonderful thing. I still fellowship. Again, I'm gonna be right out there tomorrow with the food drive. And there's things that the church does, or that some churches do, that are in line with the Most High. But like you said, the things that you aren't, like Chris said,
Like every church has a part of what they do that is in line.
Is in line.
Right.
And go ahead, Stanley, but finish before.
And so just to finish it up, is so with that fellowship, comes that duality of where, like, man, I want to still fellowship here. I want to still have this connection, et cetera. But you are conflicted. The one thing I will always say is that whatever you decide, stay true to it, because you don't want to have to feel a situation where you're compromising with Yah's word. And that's one thing that we all have to be careful of, is that balance of, am I doing too much, where I'm being too holy and righteous? And that's when you turn people off, because that's also the other side where you become a zealot. And you don't want to be that, because that's when people like, you know what, I'm not even going to hear before you open your mouth, because I know you're going to come with a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not even prepared to hear. But it just means, again, all about balance and knowing, listen to the rock and understanding where it leads you and accepting it where it leads you.
Yeah, that's the thing and I'm still working on that too, because like even things like, I know we try not to get hold up on names and stuff, and even my family, they'll say, well, what do you mean by y'all? And they seem some see my post and stuff, so I'm like, now I got to explain it. And then even that, they're like, well, it's okay to say, this is okay. So I'm like, I know, but at the same time, for me and what I feel more comfortable saying what I know now. But at the same time, I don't try to be like, the Pharisees, where I put too many rules on myself to where I can't, I guess, quote unquote, enjoy life. But I try to be watchful of what I guess take part in as well.
Yeah, and on that note, you have to walk in the victory that Yah has given you. So, as Shaul says, that if I don't eat meat, it doesn't mean I can condemn the man who does eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
it doesn't mean that Yahuwah has led me not to eat meat. I should go back to eat meat because someone is eating meat. What Yahuwah is saying is that the victory that he's given you, walk in that victory. Don't worry about the next man's victory. He may not have gotten that victory yet, or Yahuwah may not have led him that way yet. We have no authority to condemn him, and I know you are not. But what I praise Yah for tonight, you said something. You said that you wondered and you asked one question,
Yeah,
and Yahuwah revealed that through a rapper.
right.
And then from there on, I don't know if other persons understand this, that when you ask a question to Yah, a genuine question, he's gonna reveal it in a way that you wouldn't even expect.
Yeah, because you expected it to come from a pastor.
Right, right. You wouldn't
Yeah,
even.
I just wanted to come from like somebody, or I just wanted the answer.
Mhm.
And it just so happened that the guy posted a video of, I think it was the same thing. It was one of a killing or whatever. And I asked it, and next thing I know, I get an email, and he's like, "Call me." And I was like, "Okay, this is weird." And so when he called me, he told me, "Look, I'm sending you this link. Check this out." And he gave me a little bit of information. I looked at the link and read it, and it was history from there.
Yeah. So Yahuwah leads you where he wants you when he wants. And the thing about it is that as we mature, at your age, and Amore and Anelu, young persons who are here, and others, we you are at a place now, a pivotal time in history. And you have to stick to Yah. You know, it's at all time when we speak here, we don't speak about following us. We're all here trying to follow Yah. That's it. It's not a us. It's not, I'm not your teacher.
We're
we're just study
students.
partners.
Right. We're all
We're
students.
study
Right. We're
partners.
study group. We're a good quality study group.
Right. Exactly. So I'm listening to the young person, and I'm seeing how Yah is doing things that persons are walking towards him without an institution, without anything. No prompting, no anything except the Ruach HaKodesh, and they are just getting up all over the world, just like when Zechariah says that when he come, he will pull one from a city, two from a household. It means that he's gonna pull you from here, there, everywhere. Again, it's not a whole big coming together and all of us think this way. It's all of
Corporate.
us walking to Torah, and as we walk to Torah, we walk to each other and to Yah.
And that's what that's what the code jargon, corporate worship. No, it's
Right,
not, because that you're literally saying spiritual groupthink. Like
right.
for us to be able to come together, we all have to think and all do this alike at the same time. No, some people will get someplace faster, some might be a bit late, but as long as we get there, that's what matters.
And the Bible teach this also, all through the Bible, that the great gathering, though it's gonna happen at one time, it's individual relationships. One from a city, two from a household. And that was in Zechariah 14. I think it was 14. I don't know if I can pull it up from it, Stanley.
Yep, I'm looking
But
up right now.
Yahuwah says that when he come to gather his people, it means that he is gonna be responsible for leading us, and every single one of us are gonna have to have that personal relationship. You see, my white balance paper was behind me. Okay, so we're gonna have to have that personal relationship and have that feeling that Anilu or Amore or Christopher has, where you go through the struggle and you overcome, and then you see where you have won that victory. My walking here today, as I faltered many times, and many times I did, at one point, I said, I'm not gonna preach again, ever. That's what I said. And I spiraled in a way that I could not believe. And there was a time I was, it was a night I was looking in the ceiling, and I said, yeah, how did I get here? And from then I realized where I was and that's where I shouldn't be. Then the climb started step by step, and it's still happening. And what keeps me is how he called me. Maybe he called me that way, and he gave me, after that vision, many visions. Some that happened the very next day. And those, to me, were to affirm personally to me, because he knows how I am. I want to see things happening. To affirm to me that he was the one in control and leading me. Many times I would have given up. But when I remember the things that he did, I know that myself cannot tell you what's going to happen 5 seconds or even a second from now. Therefore, it could not be me that did those things. So it must have been a power greater than I am. And the only power that I could connect to greater than I am is a power, is the individual, is the person, is the essence, is the spirit, whatever you want to call Yahuwah now. For this moment, that told me that I would be here in the Western world being a subordinate human being to others because of the disobedience of my parents. Genesis 15:13, Deuteronomy 28, and Numbers 24:24, and many other places that told us that we would have been here in this situation in this part of the world at this time. When I think of how he called me, and when I see those prophecies, it confirmed to me that he must be real, and against my worst judgment to not serve him, I have to push through. Because there are times when I just don't feel like. There are times when I just say, you know what, forget this. And then there are times when he just comes in and just do some stuff, and I'm elated, and it's all in my mind. It's not even external stuff. Yeah, it's funny to me because when I think of how I relate to him and how he relates to me, things will be happening in my mind and I'm smiling. You say, why is he smiling? But I always say that Peter's faith is not my faith. It's good that I know it. And I challenge you, I need my own. I don't want, I can read Peter's, I can read Isaiah, I can read all that, but I need mine. And yes, I've gone through some rough times. Yes. But guess what? That's what I asked for without even knowing. But through it all, he held me. I didn't sink too deep where I would have drowned, but just enough to teach me. Yahuwah is amazing, awesome.
He's the hand.
The hand.
The hand.
Behold the hand.
Behold the hand. Behold the nail.
Right. So he's calling his people back to him, one from a city, two from a household.
And that's Jeremiah chapter 3. This is Jeremiah.
You're reading Jeremiah
chapter 3.
Zechariah. Go again, read.
Yeah, I couldn't find it in Zechariah, but I found it in Jeremiah chapter 3, verses 11, starting with 11, and then goes down. So starting with 11, it says, Then Adonai said to me, backsliding Israel has proved herself more righteous than unfaithful Yehudah. Go and proclaim these words towards the north. Return backsliding Israel, says Adonai. I will not frown on you, for I am merciful, says Adonai. I will not bear a grudge forever. Only acknowledge your guilt, that you have committed crimes against Adonai your God, that you were promiscuous with strangers under every green tree, and that you have not paid attention to my voice, says Adonai. Return backsliding children, says Adonai, for I am your master. I will take you, one from a city, two from a family, and bring you to Zion. I will give you shepherds after my own heart, and they will feed you with knowledge and understanding. Verse 16, and yes, says Adonai, in those days when your numbers have increased in the land, people will no longer talk about the ark for the covenant of Adonai. They won't think about it. They won't miss it. They won't even make another one. Verse 17, when that time comes, they will call Yerushalayim the throne of Adonai. All the nations will be gathered there to the name of Adonai, to Yerushalayim. No longer will they live according to their stubbornly evil hearts.
So Yahuwah promises that in all, and this is gonna go into the dispensation of grace also, when we're gonna see a lot of the terms that trip us up in the quote unquote New Testament. That it's actually was prophesied of Yah opening his arms, overlooking some of the things we did. You know, sometimes your children do stuff, and in order to love them, you have to overlook some of the stuff. I mean, young person, you may not understand it, but your friends do stuff to you, and in order to love them, you have to overlook it.
You know, you got a friend that's selfish, but you're like, you know what, you're selfish, but we've been knowing each other for
Yes.
10 plus years.
Yeah.
And you know, you come through, but you're selfish.
And you have to look beyond the things that would upset you and see the bright side of them. There are no bright side of us, really. But Yahweh is willing to look beyond what we did to love us. That's a dispensation of grace. And we're going to study that. We're going to study that as we look at the dispensation of grace. But Yahweh promised, just as young persons are here now, Joel 2 speaks of, and it's Joel 2, verse 28, and it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. That started firstly of the Feast of Weeks, which they call Pentecost, when the Spirit was poured out. But it continues even to now. And even though the devil tried it through religion to say that you have to be at a certain age, understand this, young people. When Yehoshua walked in the temple, he was 12 years old.
12.
A Hebrew girl or a girl would be with Bas Mitzvah, that's a girl, at 13, and the boy, Bar Mitzvah, at 12. It means that at 12, this boy was able to take on the responsibilities of his father. Josiah became king when he was 8 years old. He restored the temple. In fact, they were restoring the temple when he was about 18. And they found the scroll. You must know how far our people would have gone. So that the scroll was in a derelict building. It means that they weren't even reading. But this was Yahweh restoring his people. You can't go too far.
I always tell people, like, the Most High does not dispense a mini spirit to little people. It's the same rock dispensed to adults, the same as a child. He doesn't give a smaller version, like, you know what, since you're a kid, you know, you only 15, 16, 17, you know what, let me give you a little bit. You only 8, let me give you a little, you know, it's the full ruach.
How you use it is up to you now.
How you use it up to you. But he does
Whether
not
you walk in the ruach fully, or not, it's up to you now.
Most High never pours out a little bit of something.
Yeah, you have the full power available to you. And so he finds the scroll and he calls the nation to mourning and to repentance. He became king at 8 years old. Don't let anyone despise your youth.
Ageism is a huge, you know, in any institution, not just church, whether it's in your professional career, ageism and hierarchy is a huge thing. They feel because you are, I have my best friend, Lawrence, he hasn't been on this call, but his whole career, he's an educator, he's assistant principal now, but his whole education path, when undergrad, master's, has been education. His internships, everything was education. But when he first started his assistant AP job, he was challenged by a lot of the older people because like, well, what is this 30 at that time? Lawrence was what, maybe 36? It's like, what you know? How you 36 years old and you AP? And he was like, he had to look at it. And it goes back, like you said, being intentionally not having tact, because I gotta let you know how serious I am about what I'm about to explain to you. And he said when he first got his job, he was challenged. He said he got enough. He had enough. He was like, look, what was your profession before you became a teacher? Well, what's your degree in? Your undergrad degree? Well, social work. It's like, how long you been teaching? About 8 years. And he said, I'm older than you. So how are you older than me? I'm 40 something, because my whole educational career has been education. So when you include my undergrads, even my internships when I was in high school, I've been in education for half my life. That's 15 years. Where you transfer because you couldn't be a social worker. You tried to, you had your degree in psychology, couldn't make it as a, like he was he even shocked himself. He was like, you did undergrad in psychology, didn't cut it there. You didn't want to go to school. Now you want to lateral transfer into school in the education, and you feel you have the audacity to feel because you're older than me that you have more education. It's that don't get it misunderstood. Respect my position, respect my title. My whole career is education, and don't forget it. He said everybody looked like, okay, Mr. Smalls, I'm sorry. He said, but it goes, but I'm just saying his example that ageism is a huge problem in any institution, because people feel because you are not quote unquote old enough that you can't have an understanding. And the Most High in Scripture shows us time and time after again that that is not the case. It's actually when you get older, is you have more ego.
And then in Hebrew, you realize that young persons and old persons make a good team because the experience the old persons have, but the wit, vigor, and all that, young persons have it.
Yep.
And they're going to say the same thing you say and I say, the very same words verbatim, yet it gives a different energy when they say it. That's why Ecclesiastes 12 says that, remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, now the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I find no pleasure in them. And it walks us through to death. Ecclesiastes 12. And at the end it says, let us hear now the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of man. That's how we're made. If you are ever uncertain about your duty, read Ecclesiastes 12. Or the duty of man, read Ecclesiastes 12. It clears it up for you real quick. So, let no one despise your youth. Went off on that just to highlight, as I observe Yahuwah leading young people, independently of me, Stanley, or anyone else. They just have questions like Christopher, and they're just searching Anelu, Amore, Jen, Sabrina, just searching. And like Christopher, I decided that I could not be in church anymore because I tend to say what's on my mind, and we're going to be fighting because you don't believe the things I believe or the things I see in the Bible. Let me not say what I believe, because if I say I believe, it sounds like it's my thing. But I want to make it clear, it's not my thing, it's the Bible. It's Yahuwah's thing. I'm just trying to follow it. And because I'm trying to follow it, and we're tied by a cord, and I'm walking east and you're walking west, there will be a tug. What do you call it? Tug of war?
Tug of war.
Tug, yeah. Like a tugboat, yeah. And we'll be pulling and there'll be conflict. So guess what? I'm just gonna divest myself of that rope.
Because you know it's a battle you're not going to win. And within that institution, you know you're not going to win that battle.
And I have no desire fighting that battle. Actually, I don't, because it's
you're not going to win it. It's so ingrained. You're talking about going through structures. We're talking about not just a church. We're talking about if you're a part of a denomination. You're talking about you have
regional office.
We talking about, and then you're battling time too. We're talking about decades and centuries of this stuff. So
right. So as it is, Yahuwah, and I had planned to present this message tonight, but in talking, Yahuwah is the father of the fatherless. Notice that Isaiah 61 speak about Christ's mission. It's 60 or 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me.
61.
61. Notice that Micah 4 verse 6, when Micah was saying, what shall I do? What shall I give? Shall I give the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Shall I bring 10 rivers of oil? Shall I? And he's just trying to figure out how can I make it right. And Yahuwah said to him, he had shown the man what is good and is acceptable to Yah, that thou walk justly, love mercy. That thou love mercy, walk justly, and walk humbly before thy God. I think Micah 4:8. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly before thy God. And if you look at all those, it encapsulates what James called pure religion. Although religion was not mentioned then, but the translation says pure religion. And undefiled is this, that you love mercy, visit the fatherless and the widow. And when you come to the fatherless and the widow, what do you think they have in common? A missing man. Because the father is not in the house. That is why in Psalm 68, the Bible says that Yahuwah is the father of the fatherless. It tells us of the care, of the paternal care that he takes of us.
It's Micah 6:8.
Micah 6:8. Okay, yeah. I'm getting old. Some of these I could remember, but age is telling, right? You want to read it?
Yep. Micah 6:8. Make sure I'm starting. Okay. Human being. You want me to go ahead and start with, you want me to read what Micah was asking, or just start
Yes.
with just do 8? Okay. Start 1. Micah 6, chapter 6, verse 1. So listen to what Adonai says. Stand up and state your case to the mountains. Let the hills hear what you have to say. Listen, mountains, to Adonai's case. Also, you enduring rocks that support the earth. Adonai has a case against his people. He wants to argue it out with Israel. Verse 3, my people, what have I done to you? How have I wearied you? Answer me. Verse 4, I brought you up from the land of Egypt. I redeemed you from a life of slavery. I sent Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam to lead you. Verse 5, my people, just remember what Balak, the king of Moab, have planned. With Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him, and what happened between Shittim and Gilgad, so that you will understand the saving deeds of Adonai. Verse 6, with what can I come before Adonai to bow down before God on high? Should I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves in their first year? Would Adonai take delight in the thousands of rams with 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Could I give my firstborn to pay for my crimes, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Verse 8, human being, you have already been told what is good. What Adonai demands of you, no more than to act justly, love grace, and walk in purity with your God.
Those, again, that declares Yahuwah's request of us. And of course, if you go through those 3 tenets, you're going to realize it goes right back to Torah.
Mm-hmm. Act justly, act righteously, love grace, and
Yep.
walk with purity. Mm-hmm.
Yep. It goes right back to Torah, and it goes back to how we treat each other all the time. Always goes back to loving Yah and loving man.
Amen.
And when you hear Christ repeat that as his mission statement, when he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, he has anointed me, and he went through Luke 4. So Yahuwah makes it clear that he's going to be our father. He is our father, has been, will always be, if we just accept that. When we are contemplating stepping out to do Yah's will, opposition will come. It's a must. It is a must. When the disciples said to him, can we drink of your cup? He said, you will, but you won't like it. But you will be able to. He said, you ask what you know not of. You're asking to walk this road, but you don't understand. The first time Peter get a taste of it, he start to curse. Some serious curse words. And and Christ told him he was going to do it. And when he heard the cock crow, he remembered the prophecy. There's a thing about prophecy. When it is uttered, it's like nothing you do can stop it. There's only one thing can change any prophecy. If it's a prophecy about damnation for you, penitence alone before Yahuwah can change that damnation. Outside of that, nothing can change that prophecy. Nothing. The very thing you do to try to stop it is the thing that is going to bring it to pass. Peter still didn't understand. He was still wrapped up in religion. Even though he was beside the woman. Well, he was not beside it. He was beside the master before he was speaking to the woman of Samaria at the well. And she presented her religious viewpoint. And Yahuwah says that the hour cometh, and now it is that the true worshipper shall worship in spirit and truth. Even though Peter saw that he was not converted. And that is why Christ said to him, when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Because he saw that Peter had a heart to know, like Christopher was just asking questions. Right. He wanted to know. Like Annelio and Jen and Sabrina and Alexandra and all the young persons who are here tonight with us just want to know. And Yahuwah sees that and he says, you know what? I'm going to work a work in you. You're going to fall a few times. I'm telling you from now. So don't be here pretending sanctimonious as if, oh, I've never fallen. Yehoshua said to Peter, you're going to fall. You're not just going to fall.
It's going to be embarrassing.
You're going to cuss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be embarrassing for
you. In front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say, oh, wow, this is church, this is the deacon.
Right, here's the deacon. Yeah. Look at you.
Yeah, look at it. Seriously?
Come on, deacon, what you out here doing? Don't you know this man? I don't know. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Has to put in that 10-second delay to beep those sound out if you're live.
Beep.
You're right. The fail safe in live broadcast, you have to do it delay so that you can beep it just in case.
Mm-hmm. Beep.
So yeah. So Peter did that. Because guess what? He was still seeing religion. Even though from a different perspective, it was still religion for him. But when he came to know Yehoshua fully, it was a whole different thing. You know what? He's walking by people and they are being healed by shadow. These were not old people, mind you, they were young men.
Yep, young men.
These were young men.
Yep. And we have to understand religion is simply the basic simple definition is doing something in repetition, just doing something. And so that's what they were doing all that time while they had the master teacher. They were just practicing something in repetition and not fully grasping everything he was teaching. And it's still what we do. We as students, we know what we should be doing and we don't really quite grasp the concepts until we have our aha moment. Until some calamity didn't happen, it's like, oh, that's what that meant. Or you look back at what you went through before, it's like, oh, that's why I went through it. Because some things we go through aren't even for us; they're for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then it comes back around that you realize, and the thing is about his wonderful, the wonderful nature of the Most High. He does circle. It's always a completion. We always find out what that aha was about, like what that was for. Whether it's a day later, a week later, a year later, 10 years later, it's going to be something to where it's like, you know what? Now I see why I had to endure this because somebody else is watching me. And so that is a big part of it too. But before do you have something else, Chris? I know we have a question. It was in the chat.
Go ahead.
Looked like Jennifer had a question. I'm curious, how do you balance the rebellious questioning nature and being part of a fellowship? Well, I'll stab it. I'll stab it at first. And now, mind you, going back like what Chris said, every individual is going to be different because we all have our. I use the analogy like Chris already presented, the fence. We all have our fence, but there's different places in our fence that are weaker than others, right? So what's a weak part for me may not be a weak part for you, and so that way we respond to certain things are going to be different because the parts of our fences is damaged in different places, if that makes sense. So the way I go about it is simply looking at the institution religion for what it is. It's a place of fellowship. It is the place that I first, something I'm familiar with that I grew up in. And like I said, like we mentioned, there's parts of it that I still connect and resonate with and hold dear. And I'm the type of person I look at it, I have a saying that even a broken clock is right twice a day. So I take those moments, those right moments, and I accept it for what it is, and everything else I discard. So I'm able to discern because I have in my studenthood, I have a very I like to think I have a somewhat of a solid foundation that I'm able to discern what I hear spoken, take what I hear, and have that questioning nature to say, all right, if that preacher says something I don't agree with, let me go at least research it myself to reaffirm why my beliefs are aligned with the Most High's words. So it's still a checks and balance. So even if somebody, or whether I go to Insta or anybody, if somebody says something I don't agree with or connect with, I still go back to research it just to revalidate my understanding of what the Most High is telling me. So for me, I'm able to just take it for what it is. Like I said, I still go. I'm a teacher for adventurers. I still participate because I do believe that the fellowship of like-minded individuals is necessary. But I don't put it. It's not my end all be all. It's not my start, nor is it my end all be all. So I don't put it above, or I don't put it any place other than where it's supposed to be, which is a place to be able to fellowship. Simple as that. So that's how I maintain that rebellious question nature, because for me, that rebellious question nature is more so finding the information, not with the people. Because it's like the movie Matrix, not everybody's ready to receive the information that you've learned. So if you present it to a person who's not ready, all it's going to do is get in an argument, shouting match, and that's not productive either. So for me, it's like if we in conversation and it comes up, we'll talk. And once I see it get into a place where people are having some heavy pushback, I'm like, you know what? Okay, we can reconvene this or connect another time. But for the most part, I take it for what it is, and I'm able to absorb what's good, what is within the line of the Most High, and discard the rest. So that's the simple way I approach it.
For me, it's my lifelong prayer for tact. Honestly, it's tact. Because I tend to be forceful sometimes with my convictions. And when I just started going to church, the church in Jamaica is, well, it's kind of hard to say that now in terms of what you get on the news, but Jamaica has a whole lot of churches, And a lot of them
I
are
don't.
saying they have been.
I don't think that's by accident either. Remember what we talk about the flag, and I don't think that's by,
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
between Haiti and Jamaica. Those two nations have a lot of different. Yeah, I don't think that's by accident either.
So
I think Jamaica actually has the most churches per
per
square mile.
square mile, yeah.
Yep. And I 100% perceive after going to Jamaica and experiencing the people and seeing the tithe and the flag, that's definitely intentional.
In fact, one of the jargons in Jamaica is Jamaica. But you might not understand it. As in Yahuwah, made here, Jamaica. So, so but when I just started in church, 4 o'clock 3 o'clock would be Bible study religiously. Every Sabbath, 3 o'clock would be Bible study. And that's where all questions are fielded, or a hand would not be taken if you're known to ask difficult questions. So unless you're just gonna get up and say it loud, irrespective of like me sometimes when I realize you're not going to answer me, take my hand. Okay, I'm just going to get up and start talking. Okay? But I had to pray for tact all my life because I have this tendency to just say it as it is. And I had to pray for tact. So I had to balance that rebelliousness in terms of the rebelliousness comes in because I can now think independently. It means that I'm not a sheep. I don't know if you know that term.
Mhm.
I'm not a sheep to humans. I'm a sheep to Yah, but not to humans. So I see every human, it doesn't matter whether it's strong concordance or not, as another person under the watchful eyes of Yah. Therefore, Yah can speak to any one of us. And I give you a respect based on a human being, not because you are the
Esteemed.
Pope.
Hmm.
No, because I'm going to respect the security guard just the same. That's me. In fact, I'm more comfortable with the security guard
Right.
and the sanitation worker than I am with you
Mhm.
in your Pope office or wherever that is. I'm just using the Pope as a general figure, lest anyone go say I was
Pastor,
pointing fingers. Yeah.
bishop. What's the
I'm
name?
deliberately not saying
Prophecy.
pastor because I don't want persons to think I'm bashing
Look,
pastors.
we got pastor. It's 30 different names. It's almost like you can pick one. Bishop
Yeah,
or
pick one of them.
prophecy.
Right.
Yeah, you pick one.
Yeah, so from that point of view, I respect them. And if there's a program, if they're in charge, I respect. That's what the thing with me. I respect people. Naturally respect people, everyone. And so if I say something to you and it comes off as disrespectful, tell me because that wasn't the intention. But I have a time when I can get very blunt and then it comes off that way. So I had to balance now this bluntness, this eagerness to learn with my wanting to follow Yah, my inquisitive, my eager attitude. I had to balance this bluntness with that so that I don't offend the people. I remember when I just joined the church, and I've gone through almost every office, deacon, everything. And an elder came to me and he said, "Don't you see the guy on the church compound with the Coca-Cola? No, Adventists don't drink Pepsi or Coke. You shouldn't either."
Or anything with caffeine. Yeah, technically,
or anything with
caffeine. Caffeine.
Anything addictive, and they're very correct on that.
Yeah, caffeine is technically a drug.
So I said to him, "So you didn't see him?" He said, "Yes, but you're the deacon." I said, "So if your house is burning," I said, "if the church is burning, you're going to leave where you are, come to my house to call me to tell me the church is burning, for me to come back to do something." And he walked away and left me. And when he left, he's my friend up unto today. He's a very good friend of mine. I realized I could have said it a little better because the tone might have not been, but it was a fact, but the tone might have been a little abrasive. Because you saw the man with the thing in the yard, which you think is a contravention. You walked, leaving him where he's standing, come to the back of the premises to find me to tell me to go tell him that. I'm saying something wrong with that.
Right. If it offends you, you say so.
Yeah, so, but that's how I was. I was just very blunt, and he was older than I am. So I felt some kind of way, though I didn't disrespect him, but he was older than I am. So in my mind, if you're older than I am, there's a certain level of respect I need to have for you, even if you're disrespecting me. There's a certain boundary I will not pass, and as I pray over the year for tact, so I balance this rebelliousness with that respect and with a prayer for tact. Though I had the respect, I couldn't say that I had tact. So that was a point Yahuwah was working on with me. And because I was well read on stuff, I wasn't afraid to read any document. And Yahuwah would bring answers to me, and Christopher can identify with this. I was working for the public transportation company, and when those bus comes in, they are really, really dirty in the evening. And I was a supervisor. And because I liked to read at that time, that kind of changed now. Well, I didn't like to read. I had select books I like to read, religious books and romantic novels. Everything else I didn't read, except news. So I saw a book, the name or the life of Jesus, something to the sort. And I picked it up. And guess what? One of my questions of where this name and this white figure came from was answered. And this book was written by the Catholic. I think it was a Catholic book. And of course, you have to respect them for their honesty. They tell you as it is. They're not trying to trick you.
That's a baffling thing about me. Like they actually tell you.
Yeah,
like,
they tell you.
They'll tell you, yeah, the Sabbath is the Sabbath. We just chose it because it's the day we want to acknowledge the rise of Christ.
Right. So,
but the Sabbath is still the Sabbath.
Right. So they're not gonna hide it. They tell you what is what. They're not, because they maintain that the Pope
has authority.
He's a vicar, or the vicarious filii Dei, vicar of the Son of God. It means that he represents Yahuwah on earth. He has the power to change whatever the Bible says at will.
At will.
They maintain that. So yeah, that's crazy, but that's what they think. So when they say something, they are not afraid to tell you that.
No,
this is
we
what
made
the
it
Bible
up.
says, but this is what we are saying.
Telling, right? No, we made it up.
And right, so they declared where this thing comes from. So while I intact, and there are certain questions I couldn't ask, which I have never put up any of that image in my house ever, because if you remember, I said that the first vision that Yah gave me was of a black Christ. So I knew that even when I didn't know who Yah was. I knew that outright and was convinced. You don't ask me to prove it at that time, but I was saying it, and I believed it because Yah showed it to me in a supernatural way. So that's one of the questions I would ask in church and could not get an answer. In fact, a mother, love her, she's now deceased, love her endlessly, said to me that our here is the texture it is because we sinned. So I turned to her and I said, oh, so we are the only ones who sinned. But these are some of the things that are taught to people. And remember, we mentioned persons who are closer to the plantation than us. These are some of the things that were fed to them.
But that's also where we get the curse of the belief that the curse of Ham was cursing us black people with sin, when it wasn't even cursed to Ham, it was cursed to Canaan. It wasn't even to Ham.
Right. So these are some of the things that young people are not encumbered with. Young people don't follow that. They want to see, okay, show me this logically from here to here. That's what I want to see. Because they are not as inclined. And I believe with all my heart, if we just open Torah and show our young people how we got here, why we are dying in the street, why 50% of single parent is represented by a group that only represents 7% of the population, while we have
abortion,
more single parent homes, not even abortion. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, but still high. It's like 7% makes up like 50%
of the number. How it is that we are more fatherless than any other race on the earth.
But there's more men, black men in prison than there is in college.
Right. So and when you go back to Psalm 68, when it says that let Yah arise and his enemies be scattered, let them also that hate him flee. And I'm going to read it for you. Flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melteth before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of Yah. But let the righteous be glad, let them rejoice before Yah. Let them exceedingly rejoice. Sing unto Yah as Yah. Sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Jah. It says Jah in this, but I'm going to say Yah again. Yah. It literally says this even in King James. Jah, and rejoice before him, a father of the fatherless and a judge of the widow is Yah in his holy habitation. He said this in a time, look, he knew that we would have been a nation of more fatherlessness because fathers in the home was charged with leading the children to and in Torah. He knew that apostasy and abandonment of the covenant would lead us to fatherlessness, and he declared that from early. And now that we're here, I'm going to show you the thing. When the Catholic brought, and I'm going to use this term, no, it's not a condemnation to anyone. I'm just going to, and next week I'll bring you the quotation from the book by John Ogilvy and another book. When they brought Christianity to the Hebrews, not brought it because we were in Portugal and Spain and the rest, and they decided they wanted to convert us, and we rejected it. You know what they did? Stripped the children from 3, then they moved to 3 to I think 7, then to 14, then it got up to 28. I guess they realized that they couldn't care for these children, so they had to have some adolescents among the group to care for these babies that they are shipping away as slaves. And the book says that they were sent to the islands of Santa Domingue, which is Haiti and the Dominican Republic now, islands of St. Thomas, that's West Africa, where they were forced to be baptized and raised as Christians. Not focusing on the Christian part, I just made that caveat so that persons who are Christians don't think I'm condemning them. You're not responsible for what your institution did years ago. The point I'm focusing on was that those who came here were firstly fatherless and motherless, aged 3 to 28. Just as Deuteronomy says that your children will be taken from you and sold to another. And so this fatherlessness tracks us right through to this day. We have the largest percentage of single-parent homes in the U.S. Single-parent home is a standard feature in Jamaica. So we could say that the U.S. did it with the war on poverty, which they did.
War on drugs in the 80s.
A war on drugs. This multi-pronged thing that only leaves our children dying, our fathers dying or going to prison, which renders us fatherless.
It's the very reason why all these documentaries are coming out on Netflix talking about the 80s, the crack epidemic and all
Right.
that. It's
Right. And then, but in Jamaica, it's not the same. However, the stud farm gene has caused the very same ending. The point I'm making is that it comes from different perspectives, but it ends one way. We are fatherless. That's how it ends. That's how it ends in terms of the situation we are in now. And that is why Yahuwah says that he is the father of the fatherless. It wasn't just loose words. You will realize that every time Yahuwah describes Israel or describes Yehoshua, he's describing our exact situation that we're living in today. So what do these fatherless children do? More often than not, we're prone to do stuff that will land us in jail. Because there's no one to guide us. And I was watching this melanin conference. It's not the conference, but one person commenting on the conference. And he was speaking about what melanin does and how it is responsible for your spirituality, how it is responsible for how you come together as a human being. And on the other hand, I thought about what fluoride in our products that we use do, how it basically kill the lymphatic cell that
Pineal.
actually drips melanin,
Yeah.
that is responsible for how we behave as as Hebrews.
And it
So
I've also read it calcifies it slowly calcifies the pineal gland,
right,
which
the
is
pineal
pineal
gland
gland.
actually drips melanin.
It's considered your third eye.
Right. So so again, the point I'm making here, your father is removed, and the chemical within your body that Yah made to allow you to respond to him, because you know that you have current and all that, and Yahuwah is energy ultimate. I mean, he spoke and things happen, right? Look at the sun. How much energy do you get from the sun? He spoke that. So can you imagine if he can speak energy? I can speak. When I speak, things vibrate. That is how you hear me through the mic, because the diaphragm vibrates, and based on the frequency of the vibration and the tone of the vibration, the low frequency, high frequency, that translate, and now it let's not get too technical, but it goes through the system. It is converted to the sound is converted to audio, and then that is reconverted and vibrates through your speaker, and you get that as sound again.
But that's also in everything. That's why music is so spiritually touching, because it vibrates. You have
Right.
BPMs that vibrate. Like even when you're sick, they actually studied the vibration. You get off, the lower your vibration, the more inclined to sickness you have.
Right.
And so even when you hear in hip hop, like I'm vibing, no, you're literally saying my vibrations, like I'm
Right.
having a vibration.
Right.
And so yeah, all that is all intertwined into that lingo is all intertwined into the things, even what we eat. Not even just for Hebrews is just, that's why diet is important. That's why the Most High gave certain restrictions for the diet, because certain foods vibrate differently in your body. It takes
Yes.
more energy to digest it. That's why he
Right.
said for meat, and that's remunerate. So I'd like to say that pretty much a cow stomach is like a washer and dryer. And so when you eat the flesh, whatever it eats, it doesn't go into the flesh. So it doesn't take much energy to digest it, which allows your body to vibrate at its proper frequency.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so when you eat a whole lot of processed foods and a lot of stuff that we, especially in the US, we add all these different additives and we add all the stuff in milk. Not to even say that milk was bad, it's just all the stuff we add into milk that
It's
makes
less
it bad.
milk than anything else now.
It's more pus, it's more all this
More
other stuff.
other things than milk
Yeah, it's more water and pus
and sugar.
and sugar, and definitely
Yeah.
the sugar.
So
So all that stuff is connected.
so Yahuwah made us to relate this way. So imagine someone removing your father and then removing this, because did you know that the way you hear music is based on your melanin? That is why our Caucasian brothers don't dance the way we do, because you're not hearing it.
Yep. And so after I've even researched that. I had so we dance to the snare. So as melanated people, we dance to the snare. The drum beat, boom, boom. So when we joke that when we say white people don't have rhythm, no, they have rhythm. You all do. So we hear differently. And so we dance to the snare. So drum, boom, boom. They dance to the words.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play a song that's more emphasis on the words, ours is going to be different, because we're still waiting for the drum snare. We go like, where's the drum beat? Where's the pattern? Where's the drum at?
And it's African. Drum is African.
So it's all that. So for them, it's words. So they're more so with flutes. They're more on wind instruments. Right. So with wind instruments, you're more having a pattern that matches words than having the rhythm of a beat. So
right. So Yahuwah made us differently, and so what happened as we come down through the years as a people to where we are today, we were stripped of everything that was deliberately there to guide us to righteousness. Hence, Yahuwah says that he's going to wipe the sins of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Hence, Yahuwah has to do something special, because the fight is not just police shooting in the streets. for a traffic stop. The fight is not just, the fight is you not even realizing who you are and doing things that damages your own community. The fight is our people thinking that our sons and daughters don't need education. The fight is us shooting each other. The fight is us saying that we need to toss the Bible. Because I hear a whole lot of black people saying that and going to this whole Egyptology thing and whatever. Yet Egypt cannot tell you why you are here or where, how you got here. Point I'm making is that as a people, we are coming from different perspectives, and coming back to the original discussion, it's time we start to walk with Yah. Walk with him where he wants to lead us. Because it might not be an easy road. It will not be an easy road, because guess what? If you're in a war, someone's going to be shooting at you. What do you think? You're in the war to just powder your face? It doesn't work. You're in a war. Therefore, someone is going to be shooting at you. We have to be prepared and tell ourselves that faith does not mean that Yahuwah will deliver us. It does not. Faith does not mean that someone will not harm us or hurt us. Faith means that we will firmly support Yahuwah. It means that it sounds funny when you say support Yah. Yah needs your support. No, it doesn't need your support. But supporting Yahuwah means that if you're supporting me, if I'm building a house, support doesn't mean you come and look and say, wow, Chris, that board looks good. No, you're going to come lift something and hold something, do something. It means that when you support Yah, faith means that you walk in Torah. You do something. Does that save you? No. It just allows him to save you. Because without doing that, he can't save you. Because you're doing the very things that you should not be doing. So he can't do anything with you like Leo this year. He said, look here, you need to be hot or cold. So I can do something. But now that you're lukewarm, I have to vomit you. So an encouragement as we come to the close. Let me see what time it is. As we come to, if there's, well, let me not say come to a close because I've been talking long. I need to give someone else a time. But as I think I've said what was on my heart, I had this message that I did maybe 3 years ago, 4 maybe, in a church, father to the fatherless, and it created some stir because of the information I presented. And some resentment, of course, and me not getting preaching assignment too often after, right? But that's okay. But about that time, Yahuwah gave me a vision where I was, and in a nutshell, taking 2 canisters of oil, one crude oil, one refined oil, to the church, and it was a derelict building. It was midday, but it was dark as midnight. And everyone was comfortable. It's like it was not alarming to anyone that it was that dark. In a nutshell, as I pondered this week, I realized the world is in a dark place now, right now. Not just with the pandemic, which they are saying is a new normal, which is a darkness by itself. That's a whole darkness by itself. But the world is in a darkness and is drifting even further in as spiritism takes hold of the world, even a stronger hold. You realize how many times you're hearing about depending on science in the last year? Science is a new God. Science once didn't hold this prominent position now. Science has stepped forward to be this bedrock of the society where everyone who challenges science is silenced or something happened. But once you challenge their version of science, because it's not even true science, you realize that you're under attack because science is being put up as the supreme center of knowledge and wisdom. And the world is in this dark place. And the very first part of that vision happened the next day, the same morning I went to church, because this happened one Sabbath morning and I woke up early. And I didn't even know I didn't even know what happened, but next thing I'm in a vision. I didn't know if I fell asleep or what. And it was dark, and my wife wanted to go to a movie with the kids. In my vision, it wasn't Sabbath. And I'm upset and I'm saying, why is she going to the movie? Can't she see that it's dark? However, when we went to church the morning, I was a personal ministries director, and we were handing out some lessons, some Bible studies, and my daughter was supposed to sing at a concert, and my wife came, and she was saying, we're getting late. And I got upset, but I didn't say anything. And I said, you know what? I can't make it. Go without me. But I was upset, and when she left, I remembered the vision. And I said, wow, can you imagine? Because I didn't see that coming, but it fulfilled. And that's how Yah works with me. It gives me, and then it gives me a part, and fulfills that to affirm that the rest would be fulfilled. Some of them, after 20 years, the first one is still fulfilling. Some of, like this one, I'm seeing the dearth, I'm seeing the darkness now. And of course, when I was bringing the oil to the church, the clergy asked me, the pastor asked me, why are you bringing this oil to the church? And I said, it's either now or never. And the building was derelict. Outside was dark. And when I left the building, I walked the other side, and the weatherman was predicting sunshine. And I looked at him and I said, you will only get droplets of sun. You will never get sun again. And when I walked to the other side, the moon came up brilliant, and there was multiple colors in the clouds. And I stood there looking at it, and I said, how is it that no one is seeing the signs that Yahweh is putting in the skies? And when I walked around the building, there were 5 Hebrew women looking at the same sign, and I said, the Hebrews see it, and they know what it is. And everything that unfolded after that vision, I didn't give you all the vision, but after then, it unfolded that there was this drama in that church till I eventually left. Drama over the word. I was standing on the word with the Bible in my hand saying, I'm not seeing what you're saying here. Show it to me right here. And they couldn't. In fact, one of them called me on the phone and said, Brother Carter, you know that we can't prove that. But, however, based on this, the church is this, affirming the church over the word of Yah. Stanley and I had a discussion on a chat, a text message, and another person was affirming the church. Again, every time you bring up truth, they affirm an institution to say, the institution, if we say it, that's what it is. It's not only the Catholic that takes that position, that what they say is what goes. Others do. But the point I'm making is that we are in a dark place. And it's only Yahuwah who is going to lead us from this. I never normally speak about the visions in a public way. I really never normally do. Never. This may be the first time speaking about it publicly. I never know. And Yahuwah show me stuff. My wife can tell you, I'll wake up and say, I dreamed this and it happened. I remember I had a vision of some school children just running, and the truck was coming, and they were just running under the truck. And I told my wife, and For the day I was just praying, 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 praying. And I was supposed to meet with a lady. I don't know, she coined the term. You may know her, Mama G. She coined the term school to prison pipeline. She's a social research person, so she does a whole lot of this work, groundwork for children, for our community. And I was supposed to meet with her, and I didn't remember. And my wife called me and she said, "Were you supposed to meet someone here?" And I said, "Oh, yes." Being the forgetful person I am, I jumped in the car and I sped there. When I got there, while I was there with her, the news came in that a truck had hit the school bus. And I smiled and I said, "Was anyone hurt?" No. And I said, "Yahweh, you were showing this to me." And I prayed all day, not knowing what child I was praying for. I was just praying because the Spirit was just upon me for the entire day, and I could not stop praying for these kids that I don't know who they are. And there it was. So things like that, he reminds me of his calling. So when persons approach me as they do and say, "But you're not certified as a pastor, or you're not, or you didn't study Greek, or you didn't," I'm sure of who called me. Have I always lived up to it? No. But guess what? If I die tomorrow, let Yah be true and all man be a liar. Let Yah arise and all heathen scatter. Let him alone be true and all of us liar. But to Torah and the testimony, if they speak not according to this, it's because there's no light in them. Stand on that, and even if you don't have the specific text or word, Yahuwah will vindicate you. Always.
Simple.
That's my word. Any thoughts? Any questions? Anything?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so like you said a lot, like thank you for everything, and like also Stanley, thank you for sharing. Like always you bring light and clarity, and it's absolutely beautiful, so thank you so much.
To Yah.
All praises to God.
So yeah, like I wanted to ask you, when you said like the thing about like youth and like like youth and like youth being more aware of like who Yah is and engaging like that personal relationship, like I think that also on the other end, like there's young people who are like dismissing like everything, and I'm not obviously saying like them, because like we all are sinners and we all like being in that place sometimes. But how, like, okay, for you to like follow Yah and trust Yah and have faith in Yah, you have to know him and his character, because like you don't just have faith on like in the Greek understanding of faith of like, oh, you just believe and that's it. Like, no, you have to understand him from his character and who he is and what he's done. So when people are like, and like you knowing that, then you can like take your will into following him and into like embracing him and living him out. So like that being said, my question is like how can people or us redirect our will into like Yah and not into like what we believe it's truth, or what like, or how's like the world has approached us.
All right. I'm going to address the first statement, then the question, and then, yeah, the first statement and question.
Okay.
Now more than ever, there's more non-religious youth in the world now more than ever. This doesn't automatically mean that they're bad, nor does it automatically mean that they're good. It just means that this generation, where are we not? Generation X? Postmodern
That's
generation?
one of them.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of...
More like Z.
Right,
Z,
like surviving
Generation Z,
Z.
yeah. And this whole postmodernism has changed how people think, and they are growing without a knowledge of spirituality. that is preparing them to go further south. That's what the Hasatan plan is. However, in all of this, being detached from herd mentality where relationship is concerned, then what happens is that there's this period where you start to look. Not everyone just go south, devil worship and all that. Some persons actually start to search with a genuine heart to find. So when you find young people being disconnected, it's not always that they're bad. And then we are taught to think that once they don't go to a church, they're devilish. That's not true. And I'm not saying you say that, you ask a question. So I'm saying to you that that's how we're taught to respond. That's how it looks. In this time, there's never been a time like this where as many young people are looking to see the full true meaning in the Torah. Just as there's never been a time when young people are more outwardly gravitating to devil worship. We cannot ignore that. And to some really gruesome behavior. As in Jamaica, there are some gruesome things that the young people are doing. Teenagers are doing in gangs and stuff. We cannot discount or not deal with that. But at the same time, Yah is doing a work as we've never seen before. As Joel said that he will pour his spirit upon all men, all flesh. So yes, young persons are more detached, but at the same time, young persons are like yourself, like Yashakai, like Christopher, like
Fatima,
Amore, like Jen,
Fatima,
like
I think all of y'all under
Miles
30.
are taking up this mantle. When I was 19, I'm not thinking like that, honestly. Honestly. I shouldn't have lived past 1920. My mind wasn't where that I didn't even like the church people. I respected people because thank God for my mom. She grew me with that level of respect. Even when I was using curse word, I don't think my mother ever heard me use a curse word. Or an old person, unless they're behind the wall and I didn't see them. But once I see you, it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It's gonna tone down. Once you're a senior to me. And so the point is that at your age, you are doing stuff that I never thought of at your age. And I don't know your age exactly, but right now in this postmodernism time, Yahuwah is doing a work. People are just coming up to me and saying, I want to know this, I want to know that. People are bringing up the Hebrew discussion with me before I even say it. Once upon a time, I had to initiate the discussion. And in fact, at that time, when you say anything black, you're labeled as hating white. No, you can love black without hating white. But that's not what we were taught. So, to that first question, yes and no. Young people are not necessarily in church for the specific reason also. They are now reading religious material for themselves and they are seeing the lies. We have to say it. This is the time I'm being blunt. They are seeing the lies and they are having none of it. Some of them go south from Yah and doesn't want anything to do with Yah, and we have to stop and put a pin in it. If you've heard nothing else, when persons reject Yah, they have rejected our representation of Yah, because they have not known him to reject him. So when church leaders is bashing the young people about not coming to church, stop and take a look at what they see and is rejecting. Because certainly they are not seeing Yah. You see what I'm saying? What the young people are rejecting is not Yah, is a false representation of Yah. So now that they're saying we'll have none of it, guess what the church does? Condemn them. They are heathen, they are devils, because they're walking away from the church when you have not represented Yah how you should have. How dare you now condemn Yah's children when you have not represented him? This is the time I'm blunt. These are the things I'm passionate about. I'm blunt when it comes to this. And I will not sugarcoat that. Churches have not represented Yah. Muslims, Hindus, whoever have not, Israelites have not represented Yah. Yet when persons step away, it is always they that are heathen.
You over there joining that cult over there.
Yeah.
You over here
Right.
using these Hebrew words. Who's even made these Hebrew words? You in the cult now.
Right. When you have not represented.
When the people are Hebrew, like what? We should be using them. I mean, they were Hebrew, so probably best to probably use Hebrew words. Why are we using Greek? Why are we using that's the simple conversation we had even with our own friend. Like, these people are Hebrew. They had a language.
Yes.
Why are we trying to use the Greek language or Latin to understand? It doesn't.
And keep pushing it on us.
It keep like it doesn't. It's almost like you're literally saying the best way to find out about me is not asking me my wife, is asking my neighbor down the street.
Exactly.
You're not even asking the next door neighbor. You're asking somebody way down the street. Ask my wife at least. If you're not going to ask me directly about me, at least ask my wife.
Exactly.
So don't go down the street, man. Like it's crazy.
So
I think this part of the convo. Sorry, go ahead.
The what?
I was saying I think this part of the convo is something that I can definitely relate with. Like, we definitely know, like, as Hebrews, so we grew up, especially the let's say the time that we, even for me, I'm 24, right? And growing up, I grew up in a totally different reality. Now versus then is just about inverted, and I wasn't born that long ago, so I can only imagine. And I can think of how many times my perspective or paradigm has been flipped upside down.
Yashikai, hold that thought. Let me make certain that Anilu question was answered. What was the second part of your question?
My bad.
I know. I think it was like, okay, so how can like you redirect your will into like following and like searching and living out if like what's being presented to you is not like the true rooted real representation of him?
Well, it comes from diligently seeking him, studying.
Okay.
And as you study, you will get one understanding now. And I need to say this. You will find yourself dropping understanding as you get more knowledge and understanding of the Bible. So you may be impressed to say, this is what this meant. You read it now and you gleaned a different inference than what was actually there. But as you study, as you put line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little, you begin to understand the full meaning of it. There's nothing wrong in saying, I previously held this belief, but now with greater light as I study more, I learned that this is it. And then you tell people, okay, I was wrong on this. It takes humility. So guess what? To do what you're asking is just a daily walk and studying, and be open to read and to be open to get it wrong. You can get it wrong, because remember, we are thousands of years far removed from the original. So be humble, be open to get it wrong, and just continue seeking. And remember this, Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony. The law and the testimony is Torah and the prophets. Yehoshua called the law and the prophet, think that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. Revelation 19:10 said that the testimony is the spirit of prophecy, which is the spirit that allowed the prophets to prophesy. Some people think it's one person, but that's a whole another thing. But go ahead, Jashika. Did I answer your question, Anna?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
You're welcome. Okay, Yashakai.
Yeah, I'm saying this part of the conversation as it relates to like acquiring knowledge based on your perspective from a time to time. Um, my in my personal walk, I found that becoming aware is like I can tell that from a young age I would have desired wholeheartedly to serve you and serve humanity to the best of my ability. That was a dedication that or a seed that was planted and something that I decided to do very early. Like even my mom's the first time, like I was in a church setting and they were speaking about your name being being in the Lamb's Book of Life. And I would have said, and like I would have raised my hand, right? And my mom's would have said then, what tell me to put my hand down. I said, no, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm trying to get into. And when I would hear stories about Yahusha or about David or Solomon, certain things resonated with me from a young age. Even in a church setting, when you had older folks in the church, and I would hear what was being taught, but there was something about how people would move in the representation of loving your brother as yourself, or um, portraying what you would want to receive. That was lost on me. And then you again, our people we definitely had an identity crisis from ever since, or for the most part. So at some point in trying to find identity, it almost seems like it seemed like an equation. Like I'm going 100% in this direction. You hit a wall, you find out what is absolutely true, you hold on to what is good, and you might end up go in the opposite direction to say what is over there that I'm not getting. Like your initial um mindset might be that's the unknown naturally, and you don't want to be ensnared, but in some ways thinking of it as a service um to mankind for you to understand. How else would you be able to help someone if you don't understand? A lot of times that was the mindset, and I see that mindset. I can see how that mindset would have been used to as a representation in how one would walk. So one of those things that always stands out to me from different, because personally I think I'm probably made every every mistake I can, almost any mistake I can think of in terms of directional, ending up in like with certain particular mindsets, or you know but the at the heart or the core of it was trying to figure it out, or trying to hold on to what stood firm on the initial basis. And at some point after going to and fro, I think the first instance where I can say there was like a major breakdown of that construct was when I did come into a solid understanding of identity. You know, it's something that that would have shaken the whole mold. It kind of flipped everything upside down, because for the most part, growing up, we get the imagery that well we were or have been the tail, right? So it's taking on an attitude of servitude. Definitely was more it's a readily instilled or ingrained, and it's something that you would well I would have readily accepted. But this paradigm shift and how it would have shaken everything up, I think for me it it I think funny enough, as much as I was learning a lot of the core principles and seeing how a lot of the information acquired before that point fit in and how it fit in, and I think it got reapplied in a prideful way. So just like I said, even in Israel, right, there's a lot of um misapplication, misuse, and however, I feel like that one was one of the final gates that when you get through that and the perspective of the order of things from an ancient concept up to now when stuff finally gets put into the actual order. Because I can't even remember being, trust me, name it, name the sect, name the religion, even the whole idea of um the Egyptology. There was a time, or even the concept of us being Moors. There was a time at one point or another that I was heavily invested in at least getting to the bottom of or understanding what it's about. And it could have never really stood. However, with going through all of those points, you get so many points of reference. So if someone were to ask, you can, like for example, if someone just say, oh, we're probably Egyptian. Well, I mean, the Hebrews around the walls and the paintings, the Hebrews were also black. You have stories of how Mary and Joseph hid in Egypt and how Moses was always mistaken for an Egyptian. Those type of references also help to, put things in order. And then everything else kind of fell in place somewhere below there. But ultimately, that my full circle journey took me back to just about the beginning, right? I think the biggest fall for me was having to even too much. Even it's something that um are thinking that there was power in being an Israelite. Not to say that there isn't significance in being an Israelite. There's significance, right? And but the power doesn't necessarily come from your blood, right? There's definitely there's an order in a genetic makeup, and there's a reason why the Mosai chose Israel, right? But there's a lot of things that came full circle because I realized that the mindset some of the times can stir up not just a prideful, sometimes even a narcissistic way of thinking of things, right? But it's like going from a heart of flesh and accumulating dust on the heart and then having the dust shaken off. But that's just an expression of you were mentioning earlier how the cyclical nature is like you bring us right back to the beginning a lot of times. But there's definitely a reason why we'll take you through all of the steps. And it's like he's unfolding everything, and a lot of times at the end everything collapses,
And guess what?
right? Hmm.
When you would have gone all of that journey through all these places, it makes someone who is questioning and wondering, you can answer some questions that I wouldn't be able to answer because I've never been there. I've never been in those. However, someone else would not have to go travel that road because you have traveled it, and you can say to them, don't go because this is the answer.
Yeah, and I will tell you exactly why. Because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people, when you want to get to the nitty gritty. Even like the whole scientific understanding, people get caught up in what they might call
Scientology, you're there? I think, Annalou, you're saying something, you're still muted.
No, I was just wondering where Yash went. And I was
Yes,
like, no.
I think is maybe his thing. Oh, you're back. Okay, you're
Oh,
muted, Yash.
it wasn't even a mute. Like I got an unexpected scam call as usual. But yeah, um, even with the scientific understanding, there's so much useful information from all of these different aspects of life. and how the Most High will interact with us. Or even growing up, when you get into a scientific understanding of stuff, it might shake your foundation of religion. But the further you get into even a scientific understanding, you see where it starts to break down and unravel. In a case of what they will call quantum theory, quantum entanglement, or them have certain experiments that they'll conduct that illustrate how things break down at the subatomic level and how everything go back to frequency and waves, stuff like that. And then that might move you from a Western materialistic understanding to an Eastern perception, right? And then you'll get into that deeper understanding of how frequencies, what frequency does this, and all kind of different things. But even when you go there, it doesn't give you a firm principle of operation for what Yahuwah desires from you. That's the thing. What I learned in an Eastern understanding is basically after years of that, I just how to pray, how to or that was a part of separating from society. Made it easier to separate from society because it already went through a process of people you being on the outskirts of certain aspects of society. Even in Rastafarianism, how there are certain aspects of Rasta that you're outcast. You call you a black man, or you're a madman, or you're a cruff because you jump out of school. And you get me, even Rasta talk about Babylon and the natural understanding and stuff. But it's like all of that just to bring you back to essentially what we would call Christian ideals, which is where I would have started, right? And I even had a friend, funny you mentioned that a friend tell me essentially the same thing. He said, "Guy, you're a complicated person, I'm a simple person." But that's the thing. He said, if somebody come to you with a complicated mind, you can probably tell them give them a complicated understanding of why not to do this or why it don't make sense in a way that they can understand. And that was a conversation I was grateful for. And it also gives a added level of faith, because if you go all the way around the world, come back, trust me, it's a painful thing, but at the same time, it's something I have to give thanks for. And there's also a sense of fulfillment that I could have stopped at any point, but when I got to the end, if I had stopped at any point, there might have been no way for me in the midst of that to be made whole. It's like the Most High does that in that way for a definite reason.
You know what trumps all of the different beliefs, the different belief systems?
Yes.
And the first thing someone else said, the love of God. But in people's mind, love is relative. People see love differently, and most of us don't even see it as the Hebrews does. But prophecy. When someone can tell you 2,000 years ago that it's going to happen today, and it happens, there's no getting around that. So it doesn't matter how many religions you're hopping from and to, there's only one place that explains why you are where you are today. Only one. It's not Hinduism, it's not Buddhism, because these have philosophies based on what they call the laws of nature, which actually comes from the Torah. But they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that it predates Torah and all of that, as if they can actually predate Torah. They predate the written form. But Torah is coming from Yah. So if you can predate Yah, then you can predate Torah.
They will have principles, but the greatest thing about the word is that it is also heavily incorporated in historical and philosophical fact. It's unshakable. And I'm very young, and from me young until now, it's just become more and more apparent. There are certain places they'll say, I wonder if this place is real. Or they'll say there's no way to back up that this place was a real place in the Bible. No, 90%, if not everywhere mentioned, it's obvious. It's being found out and unearthed year after year.
With them, when they say wonder if it's a real place, what they're actually saying is that Okay, Charles Darwin said this, and everybody's saying it as if they've ever seen it. And they tell you about millions of years and this, as if they've ever seen it. They don't have any proof either. But they're going to ask you what proof you have. I say, but it's written in the Bible. They say, no, that's not proof. They say, what's your proof? Science. Okay, seriously. You've never lived to see 200 years. You personally have never seen 200 years or what that looks like. But you want me to believe that you know what a billion years look like? Seriously? And who programmed that the layers of soil that you're looking at? Who tells you that this one happened over that year and that year and that year? Because you've never lived a million years to know what the soil looked like over a million years. And no one was writing before our writing. You notice that too? All the writings that you can find goes back 6,000, 7,000 years. And all the speculations goes back millions of years.
But that's what I wrote in the chat, that the whole thing about carbon, the only thing that holds a lot of scientific theories together is time. With time, it's hard to dispute time because the thought is
never lived to see it.
You never lived to see it. And then you add in the fact that if you give something a long enough time, X, Y, Z can happen. So you can say anything can happen if you give something 100 million years.
And they're all theory.
They're all theory. So you can say it took X, Y, Z 100 million years. You can then say, well, this happened here. And also the flaw of carbon dating, well, not even the flaw, the law of carbon dating requires for you to know, to get an accurate carbon date, you have to know when something starts. That's why they have all these assumptions like approximately 100 million years ago, because they don't know when something starts. So there's no way to accurately predict it. And so it ties back into the whole mind state is if you give something a long enough time to do something, it could possibly do this.
Right.
So,
in the same breath, when they speak about stuff like the Big Bang and the idea of time space, or
yes.
time space, and the fact that it warps, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of these things that they will speak about is experiential. It's something that you would experience. And even when folks will talk about interplanetary or interdimensional travel, or like light year,
they call it astral projection and all this other stuff.
Well, I think that's more of a spiritual concept, but on like a scientific level.
Yes.
When they speak about like traveling to a distant say a different galaxy, and they say if you're going to travel at light speed, you would essentially have to rip a tear in space-time and go through that sounds like something experiential, and that can also be with that people in Eastern understandings would explain as something else. So I mean, if you're going to break stuff down to waves or whatever the case might be, then and if it's something that they can experience, it to me it sounds like something spiritual. So if you're going to call something, if you're going to say something come from a different solar system, you might as well say exactly, it's a spiritual experience. It's something that people experience.
And that's the thing, we have come to live in a time where
and people were high. The people was on cocaine.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like a lot of those guys, you gotta think back then they thought cocaine and opium, they thought that stuff was normal. So they was on morphine and cocaine. Let's be honest. We gotta stop playing like these people were genius. Like we saw Hendrix was a genius. He was high. So it's easy. You're gonna get all these different psychedelic things in your body. Of course, you're gonna probably come up with some great theories too. So it was on cocaine, morphine. It was alcoholics.
So what we have to understand, it takes more faith to believe in these things than to believe in Yah. It takes more believing the unbelievable. And we have to look at these things and realize that prophecy, it doesn't matter how many millions a year they tell you about, they can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't. Watch your weather report on your phone. Mine will say rain in 76 minutes for the next 2 days. And 76 minutes can't come. We're over 2 days and we're in 3 days and 76 minutes cannot reach. So if they can't even predict the weather now properly, why do you think they can actually look in the past? People debunk or people push aside Bible or spiritual understanding and places and times, as they say in the Bible, for science. Yet they can't prove science. If you really start to ask them questions, they can't prove it. True science would actually agree with Yah. But again, they tell you Yah doesn't exist. And they spend trillions of dollars on science trying to prove, which is a whole nother story, by the way, prove he doesn't exist. So if he doesn't exist, why are you fighting him? You must be crazy. You're fighting someone who doesn't exist. And now, I don't know if you realize that they say that they have created a machine that can record your dreams. And Elon Musk wants to upload your memory. And they're at the point now where they're saying that they are gods because they can make man. This is not being said, they say it here and there. But we are not seeing the undercurrent under all of this that is happening. They are attempting to make. And the first test is AI, 5G AI, because it can't run, it doesn't have the capacity to run a full algorithm like that on your regular 4G. It has to run on something with, I in fact one time was thinking if I could create a video signal that vibrates on the crystals that the world clock vibrates on, then I could transmit video in an almost holographic way that is super real, way beyond HD. Then I stopped thinking about it after the thought was going. I just said, you know what? Let me not think about that. But then I would have to create, because then it would have to have radio waves that would be damaging to vibrate at that level and that speed and frequency, because it's like a million vibrations per second. It's almost standing still, but it's vibrating. So, but that's a whole nother thing. But the point I'm making is this, that with all of this science, it goes back to Yah, who spoke everything you can think of into being. Because all them that are saying that they are gods now because they are creating life, is creating it from something. Okay, create it from nothing then. So everything that they are creating and claiming to be God, they are creating from what? The raw material that God has already given them. You see what I'm saying? So if you're God, call it from nothing. None of them gonna do that. Because they have to use what they have, which is what God already created. I think we're way past 10. I talk too much. Shabbat
That was
Shalom.
probably me, my bad.
Huh?
The last part, that's probably me, my bad.
No, my. I should have yielded the floor long before. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's been a wonderful discussion. And I look forward to having more like this, where we discuss Bible, discuss events that are happening around us to come to an understanding, a perspective. Sometimes when you just use the text, not that text is not good, but people don't know how to apply it. So, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Does anybody need the I know I post it all the time. I'm sure everybody on should have the Discord group and YouTube channel, correct? Or do I need to post it? Or should I post it?
That's always posted.
I'm just post it anyway. All right. Let me,
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so much.
here's the Discord chat.